cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, everybody, what is up? Welcome to episode number 227 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, July the 26th, 2025. My name is Jeremy Lee. A few quick announcements before we dive in. Fanatics Collect weekly auction-ending watch party is back tomorrow night. Do not miss it. You can now find the audio-only versions of our auction shows on their own tidy little podcast feed, Sports Cards Live Auction Nights, available on Spotify, Apple. Subscribe for free. Big thanks to everybody who requested that. Be sure to check out the Road to the Nationals series right here on the channel. 8 episodes are live, and the final one features the Nationals management team. If you are thinking about getting or adding a grail to your collection, check out Fund Your Cards, the hobby's top consolidator. They help you finance your high-end purchases using your own cards. Visit fundyourcards.com and explore their proprietary client platform. Guys, Mint Inc. is a leading hobby experience in Canada. Visit their Toronto store in Vaughan or shop online at mintinc.ca. With worldwide shipping, they offer live stream shopping, auctions, breaks, grading, and more. Guys, GP Sports is your go-to for hockey card breaks every Wednesday and Friday right here on YouTube, hosting Hockey Trade Night Friday at the National as well. Find them at booths 857 and 859 at the National, gpsportscards.com. Again, GP Sports Cards will be hosting the Hockey Trade Night at the National on the Friday night. For sharp, real-time sports data, check out Rolling Insights. Their data feeds power major platforms to give fantasy players and businesses a real edge. No more messy spreadsheets. Visit rolling-insights.com, and Ben Hossler will be joining us later tonight. Chronosio now offers flexible pricing, so you only pay for what you need. Try the new pricing slider or save with their annual plan. Pay for 10 months. Get 12. Start managing your collection smarter at home.chronosio.com. And if you want to sell your cards on eBay but skip the hassle, message me directly on Instagram or email me, jeremy@slabsharks.com, and I will help you consign your cards with Slab Sharks. Don't forget, this show is also on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow for free. And if you're enjoying the content, please leave a rating or review. It really does help. Huge thanks to all our loyal viewers and podcast listeners. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, your comments and your questions are in play. So let's get to it. Let's bring out Mr. Santa Cruz himself, Joe Poirot. What's up, buddy? Welcome back.
Hey, good to see you, Jay Lee. How are you doing this Saturday night?
I'm doing good. I'm just noticing you look really clean shaven today. I don't know what it is, but you're looking great against that partly cloudy but sunny background on the beach. Looking good, Joe Poirot.
Yeah, I wish I was in the tropics, but yeah, here Santa Cruz ain't so bad. And there's a huge race tomorrow. It's called the Wharf to Wharf. There's like 20,000 people running by my house. So it's a big party weekend, 10K road race, and the Kenyans and Ethiopians will be flying down East Cliff. And so it'll be fun.
Right on. I want to just let everybody know, if you're watching on Instagram, come on over to YouTube and you will enjoy the front row ticket, and of course get your comments right into our chat. It's harder to see them on Instagram, but Joe, I'm leaving for the National in under 72 hours, so I'm getting excited. I've got a lot to do between now and then, but Monday's going to be packing, preparing day, and then Tuesday is travel day, and I will be there Wednesday through Sunday. I want to shout out Hobby Palooza, great event last weekend that raised a record-breaking amount of money for Signatures for Soldiers. That was just a great initiative by the Four Collectors YouTube channel, who will coincidentally also be hosting the Vintage Trade Night on Saturday at the National. So check that out, everybody, as well. So, Joe, I mean, there's a few topics we could talk about tonight. And for tonight's episode, for the first hour and 15 minutes, Leighton Sheldon was last minute, is not able to make it, but Leighton did want me to let everybody know that he's looking forward to seeing everybody at the National, and him and Just Collect will be buying and selling all week long at the National at booths 401 and 403. Go see Leighton Sheldon. And apologies, he's not going to be able to join us tonight, but we'll talk about some of those topics that we had marked for him with myself and Joe. Grant Patterson's going to join us, Ben Hossler and Chris Hoge, as well as Josh Adams is a maybe right now, Joe. So how's your week? What's going on? What's going on with you?
Wow, it's been a good week. Just today was, a lot of chores. Woke up, got a little surf in or mid-morning. And like I said, everyone has descended on the small little beach town here in Northern California. So I'm doing well, but I will admit all this content that's leading up to the National. There's, certainly some hobby buzz news here, there, and everywhere. But then also on a personal level, noticing all my friends and associates, gearing up to go to Chicago and all the various meetups and lists and agendas and community. I have to admit I'm feeling a little sad, a little melancholy that I won't be there. And
sure wish you could be, but hopefully next year we'll get you out there, or Strongsville or something like that. Let's say hello to Dino. What's up, Dino? Looks forward to all of these. It's great to have Kevin Hawthorne in Lakeland, Florida. Laura, good evening to you, fellow card enthusiasts. Buckle up. That's right. We got Mike Petty in the chat. My handsome friend Mike Petty loves the PSA badge, regulation PSA. Yes, we're going to talk about that. That'll probably be our first topic, is the new repack product has developed and evaluation. We got a lot. We'll down for sure. All aboard the crazy repack train, says Laura. Yes, Laura. How about a Peter interview, former SGC? Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be doing interviews at all, but hey, if he is, we'll try to get him on for sure. What's up for the game? Paul Masheri, good to see you. Hitman's Kid, Skeppy is here. Jeff McMahon, Daniel Brown, Michael Ham, good to see you. 660. Are we having some internet issues here? All right, I think we are back. Joe, are we back?
Yeah, we're back. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to figure it out if I can do anything. Sorry.
I think that was me. Hit 660K for Caitlin Clark is crazy. What's up, Robert Scott? Good to see you. Linda's first. Dan's Vintage is here. Triple V is here. Mike Petty, I need to nail the Grail Rome. What's up, Michael Stone? Welcome to the show. Travis Mater, he wants me to save us out a 3 card. Hello, Iconic Al. Welcome to the show. Good to see you as well. Rome Rant is here. Dan's Vintage says, I need to repack my left hamstring. Chris C, welcome to the show. Davius came over from Instagram. Good to see you here. Yankees fan, love to Aussie. No doubt about it. What's up, Stukes? Good to see you. Good to see you all. As always, it is Southern Collector Tony is here. Welcome, Southern Collector Tony. Jack Inc., what's going on? E105 Mellow Mint. 2 questions. Will the AC work? Will the Wi-Fi work? Well, let's find out when we get there. Chris E says SGC is not dead to me. Well, we'll get into that for sure. We will. What's up, Ben Burrows? Good to see you. Yeah, I guess my internet went out there. I'm sorry, guys. I just made an adjustment. I think we're good now. We should be. Hodges, what's going on? What's going on? HB says Joe P for Hobby Prez. Mark, good evening to you as well. Welcome to the show. Piccolina the cat is here. All right, Joe, let's get into it. Let's talk. Let's start with the repack. Let's start with the Cards HQ X PSA collaborating on a repack. And I've got 2 main comments on the whole thing, and then we'll let the conversation flow. So here's my 2 comments, guys. My first comment is that I have 1 comment regarding Jeff and 1 comment regarding PSA. My comment regarding Jeff is the day before he announced it on the 22nd, he said that the announcement coming up the next day was going to change the hobby forever. I think those reserves change the hobby forever. That was a bit of a letdown, I think. That's not going to change the hobby forever. It might change the product he's selling forever, or it might change the way that repacks are executed upon moving forward. But repacks are only one part of the hobby. They are not the whole hobby. So, hey, technically, maybe he's right. Maybe by changing the way repacks are distributed, or at least verified as fair, he will change that part of the hobby forever. Okay, it's a technicality. But I was expecting something a bit different because I've never bought a repack. I don't ever plan to buy a repack, so certainly doesn't impact my hobby at all or my experience in the hobby, Joe, because, okay, so that's my thought there. A little bit of a letdown on what was actually announced. My comment on PSA. And I think the more interesting part of this is the PSA side. What Jeff Wilson and Cards HQ did, I think it's brilliant, to be honest. I think it's a great idea for Cards HQ. I think it's a great idea for repacks even. And I think Jeff is smart to get PSA to agree to do this with him. So that is pretty good. That's pretty good. But where I find the most interesting thing to be is PSA's role in this as the verifier of fairness. And that's new for them. They are now basically auditing a product. I don't think they've ever done anything like that before. They have certainly opined on the condition of a card and the authenticity of a card. And that in itself is a trust function, I think. Mm-hmm. We could say that. But have they ever taken somebody else's product and verified that it's fair? So I think that it is a form of regulation in a way, but it's being regulated not by a third party, not by an arm's length third party, because the cards are either being graded by them or have been graded by them. And they do have, even if it's not direct, they do have a vested interest in the success of the product that holds, number one, their fairness certificate, but also their grading and authentication certificate. So the question I have for you, Joe, and everybody else is, and my thoughts are that, Cards HQ and Jeff Wilson are probably only the first people to do this. This seems like it's going to be a new service line for PSA. And why wouldn't they want to make more money? That's all they're in business to do, is make money. So why wouldn't they want to make more money? They're associating with a repack format. They're associating with Cards HQ and Jeff Wilson, which is probably fine. I'm sure Jeff runs a good store there with his partners. But they are taking on a new function in the hobby, brand new. And what really gives them the right to do it? I have the answer. That was rhetorical. They do. They give themselves the right to do it. Their brand gives them the right to do it. And the fact that their brand is pretty much synonymous with the hobby gives them the right to do it. Doesn't mean that they should do it. Doesn't mean they shouldn't do it. But they're biting off a lot here. And then we have to ask ourselves, can we trust it? And I'm not going to default and say I don't trust PSA to properly verify these things, but what are the controls that are in place to ensure that this new power that they've bestowed upon themselves is not going to be abused or misused at the employee level? And so I start thinking about, well, how could they game the system? Not PSA, but the employees internally. How could they game the system? One thing comes to mind for me, and then I'm going to stop talking. I'll let you talk, Joe, and we'll see what the chat says. The one thing that comes to mind to me is that if you're an employee and you are packaging these grailed, I forget the name of it, grailed grails or grailed slabs. I forget the name of the new product, but if you are packaging these boxes of repacks into the brown cardboard case, and you were thinking, well, you might know where one of the best cards is. Well, I'm going to put it in the bottom right. And I'm going to send a text message to my buddy at Cards HQ Receiving that says, hey, by the way, the big hit's in the bottom right of the box, or I put a little mark on it or something like that. I'm not saying they're going to do it. And really, it matters if they do it, of course, but what matters just as much is if there is an opportunity at all in the process, at any step in the process, for this service to be tainted or infested with misuse, bias, any benefits given to anybody playing there. So Yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on it. Again, I don't really have an issue with it that much. I think it's interesting that, you know, PSA has said we are now the certifiers of fairness for repacks, or at least this repack. And if the hobby's going to trust them, then great. The hobby will trust them. And if there's misuse of this power, will the hobby ever even know? Don't know. Maybe not. So those are my thoughts, Joe. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these points.
Yeah, I think conducting the thought experiment of how this, you know, a new development positions PSA potentially in the hobby space is important. And you know, I'm not going to jump into immediately tinfoil hat, but getting back to Jeff for a second, let's just start with Jeff. You know, the big change for the hobby. Like, I never quite know if Jeff's, you know, having fun with us or you know, believes that this could be a development that actually alters the hobby landscape, or if he's just looking for clicks. It doesn't even really matter that much, because it does. If PSA is essentially offering a new service in terms of sending out cards in some sort of randomized way, if we're getting granular, that's, I suppose, along with the grading, right? And that's I think one of the issues too, right? That the act of grading so close to the randomization, and then the potential, you know, we haven't heard anything from PSA to understand how they might be doing this. But then again, we haven't always heard a whole lot from other repackers about how they're doing it. So, you know, compare and contrast the different places that you bestow trust when you are entering the repack game, which is not a game I've played up to this point, but you know, maybe someday I'll try it. So I think it would be interesting to me to hear a statement from PSA if they are understanding themselves as getting into, I think you mentioned auditor or you know, some kind of randomized verification that is essentially pledging that yes, we vouch for the fact that no one knows, except for maybe the people that packed them, where the positions of these cards are, which would get passed on to the consumer, and then therefore ensure a fair shake at whatever, you know, the value proposition for these particular packs are. So I think that is fascinating. I think it deserves some pause for all of us to kind of think, you know, are there ramifications here? Is there any potential, I don't know, conflict of interest is the right word, but just, is there anything that we should be asking or requesting from either Jeff or PSA around how we're going to see this develop moving forward? Because as we know, you know, things get accepted in the hobby, and then there's a tidal wave of, you know, just that's the way it is. But before we jump, you know, what are we getting into here?
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis Moore, referring to them as graded grails. So, Joe, you mentioned like the fact that they're grading them really close to packing them. Now, that's one thing I'm not 100% certain about. And on my Instagram post that I made about this, it had a ton of chat and engagement in it. Jeff actually made a comment and confirmed that, and I don't know if he read it properly because this surprises me, but they will buy cards. Cards HQ will buy cards, whether raw or already in PSA slabs. They will then send them to PSA. If they're already graded, PSA just needs to seed them randomly in the product. But if they're raw, PSA will grade them and then seed them. That's a conflict right there. You're grading something that's then going to be sold by your partner. I mean, that is a conflict of interest because there is motivation for this product to do well and to overgrade the cards. Even if there's a counter motivation not to overgrade the cards because it could hurt your reputation in the short term with a short-sighted perspective, you might decide to do that anyway. And it's not even if you do it or you don't. The fact that it is possible for the system to be abused or misused indicates a lack of control. And I'm not saying, listen, I don't know exactly what's going on there, but we're somewhat speculating there could be holes in the control system to ensure that this thing runs smoothly and with complete integrity. So Now, if they are grading raw cards and going straight into the product, that's worse. That's just not that's a conflict of interest for sure, which is a level above just packaging your own product or something that is half your product, where the slab is yours and the card might not be, but it is your brand and you're putting it into these products. So there are conflicts of interest here for sure. And but it's if they are, like, I would feel better about it if we, the hobby, knew that the only thing that was going into these products, into this product, Graded Grails, were cards that Cards HQ purchased on the secondary market or in their shop, wherever, already graded, sent to PSA. But if they're sending them raw cards to then be graded, to then go into the product, that's an issue. I think that's it's a cause for concern for the hobby. So let's go to some comments, though. Midlife Greg is here. What's up, Greg? Hodges says, gave the video a like. Hello, everybody. Hello, Hodges. Midlife Greg says, carnival barkers tend to bark more than deliver. So he's talking about the announcement that was sort of a bit of a letdown when it came out, at least maybe not for Jeff and his businesses, but for the hobby. Southern Collector Tony says, Jeff could change the hobby for the better if he moved over to Pokemon full time. Terry Brown says, I asked ChatGPT to summarize Joe Perot's role on the show. It told me that Joe adds value with a collector's perspective, provides industry context, and view engagement. It also notes that he is not Joe Hollywood. No, he is not Joe Hollywood. Mike Petty said, it will change a lot of people from the penthouse to the poorhouse. I think he's talking about the repack product and maybe all repack products. Hitman's Kid says, Jeff Wilson buying a new mansion next week. Listen, making money is not illegal. Making money in the hobby is not illegal, and it's not really wrong. I mean, this is an industry, guys. It's an industry. Don't ever forget that. What's up, Pastor Greg? Welcome to the show. Mookie Chilson said McDonald's changed fast food forever with chicken nuggets, a kind of drive-through repack. They certainly did. Double D Dylan's listening and working. What's up, Dylan? Welcome to the show. Dan's Vintage says, PSA is getting into gambling, which is troubling. The conflicts of interest are obvious and disturbing. They are obvious. Are they disturbing? They become, for me, disturbing if we don't trust the inner workings of the new trust verification or fairness verification service department of PSA.
Is there a department? I mean, we know nothing. We know nothing about how they've conceived of this internally. Maybe just somebody, got an email from Jeff and said, oh, this sounds like a good idea. Okay. I mean, it might be as simple as that. I don't know. I don't know what they've, discussions they've had up in the C-suite.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We don't know what's going on specifically with the process and how they built it out. But listen, PSA is people are going to laugh at me, but they're a well-oiled machine. I'm not saying that they meet their turnaround times, but for the most part, just logistically, if they're turning around 1.3 million cards a month, that's a gargantuan task. So, and they've now become, decentralized with several different offices, and they have to have oversight over these offices. So, building it out is tough.
Well, let me ask you this, Jaylee. Do you think this is something where other repackers will see, okay, the PSA brand name legitimizes the randomization process to such a degree that it's a good business move? Do you think other repackers will venture to partner with PSA in this same way?
I do. I do. I think that really this product is sort of setting the standard now by engaging a third party, not a complete arm's length third party, but it's a third party from Sports Card Investor, Cards HQ, the whole Jeff Wilson umbrella of hobby businesses. It is a third party, but they're kind of partnered, and PSA is charging a fee for the randomization. Now, any auditor charges a fee to audit financial statements, but here's something interesting, guys. When you work in an accounting firm, a professional services firm, like an accounting firm, a global accounting firm, like a PricewaterhouseCoopers or a KPMG or a Deloitte, if you work for one of these super accounting professional services companies, you cannot own a share of the stock of a company that any of the global offices, for the most part, audit. So if I'm located here where I am in Canada, in Calgary, Alberta, and I'm working for Deloitte and Touche, now it's just known as Deloitte. If I'm working for Deloitte and I want to own a stock of, say, Berkshire Hathaway, which is, out of Omaha, Nebraska, and if Berkshire Hathaway is audited by Deloitte, even though I might just be a lowly, manager or senior accountant at Deloitte, Calgary, or Toronto, or wherever, and I don't get to touch or see the Berkshire Hathaway file at all. It's in a different country and office. I still can't own a share of that company. I have to disclose upon being hired what I own, what public company shares I own, and I have to let my employer know that, well, I might have owned them, but I've sold them off because I want to come work for you. So the financial services industry takes conflict of interest extremely seriously. A lot of it came out of the whole Enron WorldCom debacles of the early 2000s. But that is how seriously independent third-party verifiers are taken and the standards that they are held to. There can be no opportunity for conflict at all. So in this situation, there's tons of opportunity for conflict. I'm not saying, and there's tons of conflict of interest. Again, doesn't mean they're going to exercise upon it and take advantage of that and game the system. But the fact that they can is concerning enough. And I think it comes back to Dan's comments been on the screen for so long that, yeah, disturbing, and the conflicts are obvious. Okay. Chris C says, repacks and breaking to me is just gambling. I just buy singles only for the PC. You're not going to get any argument out of anybody on that, Chris C. I think you are right. It is gambling. Chris Renaud, how is it we get ads during a live show on YouTube? You don't have YouTube Premium, I guess, is how. But I will tell you, Sports Cards Live is set to the lowest frequency of ads. It's literally the low setting. So there could be a lot more, but there are not. Thank you for being here, everybody. Dave Marone, what's going on? Craig Midlife says, the issue I'm having with Jeff and PSA, get good. He says, get good at what you're already doing before expanding to the next thing. The In-N-Out has like 4 things on the menu. They're killing it. Yeah, In-N-Out burger. The only thing I'll say to that, Greg, is that they are good at what they're doing. They are. I mean, I'm not saying they're consistent, but okay. They're good at what they want to be doing. They're good at making money. They're good at getting cards in and out, even if they're behind at times. They are good at that. I saw someone today say somewhere like, well, at least get your turnaround times met before you do this. It's different people. It's a different, that comment doesn't really hold water. Not to say Greg's doesn't, but I think they're pretty good at what they're doing, even though they're not, even though they have their challenges that comes with being human. Peeps, good evening to you. Hitman's Kid says everyone should have a friend that works for PSA so they can get only 10s. I don't know if that works, but you never know. Double D's Vintage, I, for one, would much prefer to buy a repack over a hobby box, and I would rather purchase the repack from PSA directly over a random other. Yeah, I get that. That's why I think it's a good idea that Jeff did this. I think it's really smart by Jeff, and I think it's going to set the standard one way or another, whether other repackers are going to use PSA or maybe they'll go to, I was going to say SGC, but that is PSA. I don't know if Beckett would, if Beckett would help their business out or not. So I just think the PSA makes this into a service line and it's offered across the hobby. That's what I see happening, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with Dylan too. I mean, back to the compare and contrast. It's like, I don't know all the inner machinations of the other repackers, but I am inclined to trust that PSA has a lot more to lose by any sort of funny business than whomever is behind. And that said, there's always the human element, and the processes involved probably should be kind of transparently revealed in the space if it's going to be something replicated, or even if it's not. If Jeff's going to run with this and it's become a thing for Cards HQ, then we probably, curious minds would like to know how do you go about doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why more information will likely come out as more and more companies start announcing that they are now having their repack fairness verified or certified by PSA as well. So, well, yeah.
So, I mean, and I guess that, I mean, if we're going to take Jeff's comment to the nth degree. I mean, maybe that's what he was getting at, is that this will set the standard for the repacking space to hopefully, I have no reason to think it's had any sort of nefarious ways of distributing. But it wouldn't surprise me if it did at times, just because, we know that things emerge in hobbies, not even connected with organizations, but like you said earlier, individuals within organizations. So I think if we were to look at it from that perspective, if it organizes a higher level of integrity in the repack space, and helps consumers feel more confident. Again, this isn't a space that I'm interested in. I'm with, the people in the chat that are saying singles and PC, but if we're understanding repacking as a significant way to, create liquidity, to have people involved, and get a reasonable return on ROI, maybe more so than a hobby box, then we all should have some degree of vested interest in it being done above board and with the highest level of integrity.
Yeah, well, and I think we're going to see it spread. I do. Jeff Hart, what's up, buddy? We'll see you next week. Ben Burrows from Collect says, would like to see PSA offer some insight into the process. Other thought is that a good part of the hobby thinks everything is rigged or planted, so they won't be convinced anyway. That's a good point, Ben. And often with good reason. We've seen some big frauds rear their heads lately. So yeah, with good reason. Mookie Chilson says, I can't get over Jeff lecturing us on investing PSA 10 goats only and then launching a repack line, promoting Kobe beef and selling hamburger helper. Yeah, I think he's talking about the video that Jeff did saying that buy the card, the not grade is really, 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 really bad. I counted them. 5 reallys is really bad advice. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too a little bit. If you go to that video I think it's on the Jeff Wilson Show channel, I left a couple of pretty long comments because to me, it's one of the most, it's such an important doctrine in the hobby. And it's one that he just completely doesn't understand or pretended to not understand. I was surprised he didn't understand it. I know some people aren't surprised, but I thought, come on, you got to know what that's about. Triple V, the fact that repacks are a viable market to me is in direct correlation to high prices and iniquitous chase structure of the modern products. Yeah, it certainly is. I think you were just saying the similar. Card Futures, will repack buyers absorb the cost? I think he's talking about the cost of PSA now charging Cards HQ to certify their product. Of course they will. Of course buyers will. Anytime costs go up in a business, the customers end up paying the bill. Almost every time. So yeah, Card Futures, I would say the answer to that is a resounding yes. Daniel Brown says, Jeremy, in that case, they would have a conflict of interest on all graded cards. Only if they're selling them or certifying them, Dan Brown. I mean, they can grade a card and send it out to the customer who sent it in for grading. If they then resell that card, I think there's a conflict there. But unless I'm misinterpreting, Dan, let me know if I missed the boat on that comment. Sign of the Time says Cards HQ is sending in already graded cards. Okay, but is it only already graded cards? Because on my post on Instagram, Jeff, I wrote out what I think was going on, and Jeff said that's correct right under it, and it said sending in raw cards. So unless he didn't think he was responding to the right comment, because sometimes these things get long. So, but I would certainly prefer if they're only sending in already graded cards. It's better, it's still not perfect. Iconic Gal says the PSA set registry and repacking unsellable singles, both genius ways to convince people to buy cards they don't want. Yeah. Dylan says, what isn't a conflict of interest in the hobby? Yeah. Skeppy says, I hope Jay Lee takes some time tonight to speak on Jeff's comments about buying the card, not the grade, being bad advice. Yeah, I just did, and I might a bit more. Dennis Moore, the repack market definitely needs an overhaul aside from digital big players like Arena Club, Courtyard, etc., and the physical big name hit parade. The other products out there are very amateur. 100% they are. I think you're right. It needs an overhaul. This might be that overhaul. PSA being the arbiter of fairness might be the overhaul. Dan Brown says PSA auctions cards off on eBay under their brand. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, which should give buyers confidence buying from such a respected brand in the hobby, generally speaking. Neo says you will see PSA repacks in GameStop, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. My opinion too, Neo. That only makes too much sense. And Skeppy says, but how can they know you don't own stock through friends or something like that? They can't. Skeppy, when you are a professional, and I'm just going to use professional, like not by, if you're a professional accountant, doctor, and a professional doctor takes an oath, and then you likely have to attest that you are maintaining your oath. So, they could audit you. They could audit you is what they could do, actually. But anyway, that's just the way it works and has worked for decades. So we're not going to argue about or get into the benefit of working in a professional service firm and not owning shares of companies that other offices are auditing. Lots there, Joe. I just ran through a bunch, and there's a whole bunch more. So anything that any comments or thoughts come to mind after all that?
Well, where my brain goes, again, as a singles collector, this doesn't really pertain too much to me, but I'm always interested in that sort of dialectic between how the repackers start to maybe put pressure on the the companies, be it Panini or Topps, to maybe be more thoughtful in terms of their price points, and I think that could be, if I was going to look for positive developments from a repacking surge, it would be getting box prices down to a place where sort of the average Joe consumer could occasionally do a little ripping. I haven't ripped wax probably in going on like a year and a half now, 2 years, and it's just because it's such a such a bad value proposition. So if we could get a little pressure on there, I don't know if it works that way. I don't know. What do you think? Does it have that effect? Could it have that effect?
Clarify what effect?
If repack appeal becomes so strong for the consumer as an option to breaking wax, would that force the companies, Panini, Topps, to lower their point price?
They're not going to lower their point price. They can't. I don't think they can. This is sort of unrelated, but we see so much narrative about these cards, boxes, packs are too expensive for people to buy. And it's true. They're too expensive for many people to purchase. And everybody blames the card companies or the breakers, right? The breakers for kind of bringing us here and the card companies for reacting. But you know who I think is really at the bottom of this problem? It's neither of those. I don't think it's the manufacturers or the breakers. I think the root cause of the price of wax are the licensors, the leagues and the PAs. I think they are, especially in the Fanatics era, where we don't know. I don't know the details of the deal, but whatever sort of royalty rates or guarantees that Fanatics had to make to the three big leagues, that has to get paid. Maybe there's a minimum. Maybe it's a straight royalty. I don't know, but I think that it's the licensing fees that have caused, in a major way, the prices to go up. Now, I'm not saying it's only them. It's not exclusively the licensors. It's likely it's also going to be the manufacturers are now, well, we can make more money, so let's make more money. Breakers are are part of it too. But I think the root cause is the overhead / royalties that these companies have to pay. They have employees to pay, they have rent to pay, maintenance costs, occupancy costs, all these things, labor, of course, and supplies, everything. Like these companies are like, their burn rates are especially PSA's burn rates can be huge. PSA doesn't count. Upper Deck, Panini, Topps, huge burn rates. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just letting that sink in a bit, and I'm sure our friend Carvin Chung would have a lot to say about all this. Let me ask you this, because you and I both are almost exclusively singles collectors, right? And so repacks and ripping wax or breaking doesn't really have a direct effect on us. But if you were to sort of assess or describe how do those areas of the hobby inevitably affect the singles market, how would you describe that? Like, what is the interrelationship between, breaking, ripping wax, and just the trickle down to the singles market?
It's who was I was listening to somebody just today, maybe it was even yesterday. It's all a blur right now, but maybe you're in the audience right now or in the chat. It's a pinball machine. These cards they go boom, 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 boom. They move around. It takes a long. I like for every card to ultimately find its home in a collection by a collector who wants to own it for a long time. How many owners does the average card have to go through before it gets to its permanent home, its long-term home? Breaker, customer, repacker, customer, repacker, customer, repacker, customer. How many? Final home, list on eBay or Fanatics Collect, then final home. How many owners own a card on average before it gets to its final home? What is that number? It's not 1 and it's not 2. It's probably, in that 5 to 10 range. If I'm just, totally plucking a number out of my head right now. Don't know what it is for sure, but it's bigger than in the old days. You bought a pack of cards, you took them home, put it in your set. And if it was a double, you gave it to your friend and went in their set. So it was, one person in between maximum, or, retailer, and then went to you. Nowadays, these cards just go bing, 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 bing all over the place, back and forth. So is that kind of what you were getting at, though?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, kind of in the economic realm too, though. Just like money entering the hobby, and where the money is in the hobby. I mean, I was listening to Rob Veras this morning, and kind of him weighing in on the issues with breaking and repacks even, and his desire to see consumers sort of satisfied with something in their collection. And again, we've talked about this many times. I mean, there may be two hobbies, right? There may actually be a gambling sort of risk hobby, and then there may be people that are actually wanting to have cards in collections and build collections and curate collections and have the joy of acquisition. That's obviously reducing it to pretty black and white terms. But yeah, I think about that because, I want the hobby to be thriving. I want it to be robust and not something that's turning people away or recycling out collectors only to, have them lose their behinds and then, need to sort of recoup their resources and then they get out of the space. So yeah, just kind of thinking about the value proposition of all three markets and how they interplay, how they overlap. And, I'm sure the chat has ideas on this too.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to some comments and we'll get to these ones here. Chris C says repacks are just another way of siphoning money from gambling addicts, in my opinion. Yeah. Here's a quick little story, guys. Yesterday, I met a collector who I've only met once briefly before. We met for coffee, just had a chat. And he was telling me that and this guy hadn't even heard of the National. Okay. So he's like, his buddy got him into the hobby. I don't know what he said, maybe a year ago. And this guy's got a business. He makes good money and he's in the oil field. So he's, which is a lot of oil money where I live. And he was telling me that he'd go work 12-hour shifts and then they're in a camp. Like him and his crew are staying in a camp, literally camping at night. He said he would pick up his phone and he would go to Whatnot. And he would go to Whatnot and he would go into breaks and buy teams. And this is the way he was saying, he was like, Whatnot's been the best thing for me. He says, Whatnot's been so good because it's entertaining and I'm having fun with the people in the chat. He says to me, the entertainment value itself is worth a lot of the money that I'm spending. Now this is very contextual because this guy Listen, I have no idea what he makes. I'm guessing this guy makes $500,000 a year sort of thing. Just a guess, okay? And he's worked a 12-hour shift with his fellas, with his crew, and now he's literally maybe had a nice steak and potatoes dinner, drank a beer or two, and he's lying in his tent. He's got nothing to do except go on his phone and go have some fun gambling on whatnot. But the funny thing was that, and I said to him, I go, I told him I have a show, I do this, I do that. And we talked about, he goes, yeah, I could see it being a problem for people, but he loves it, which I just thought was like, but then we had the conversation. Well, people are losing their livelihoods, they're losing families. This is gambling, this is gambling. So anyway, it was just interesting to get that perspective of somebody who hasn't got to the point where they fall off the cliff yet. And they're still new and kind of liking it, but I tried to explain a few things. Okay. Iconic Al says PSA repack vending machines coming to every major sports venue. Why not? Hello, Orlando from A Collector's Dream. Phil Niacro fan, good evening to you. Dennis Moore says the website has all the odds and full checklist. That's transparency right there. That is transparency. And I think that there is transparency in this new product. And I saw Jeff talking, saying, we're not going to know what cards get pulled when, unless they're pulled in front of us. And that's fair. But the fact that the checklist is there, it was verified by PSA as being that. Now, again, PSA is a self-appointed, auditor in this case. They don't have to pay any dues, or they're not subject to internal audits from the regulatory body. There is no regulatory body. They are the regulatory body. Maybe they'll audit themselves. Who knows? But who's checking that? Nobody. Oh, so yeah. But I do like the transparency that Dennis Moore shows here on the product. I've heard of other repackers doing that before, so I don't know if that's completely novel, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. Dan's Vintage says breaking and repacks are unregulated and they are gambling. That's a bad recipe. 100%. Pastor Craig, often things start out on the up and up, but once someone figures out how to game the system, all bets are off. That's the problem. That's the problem I have with PSA's involvement. But hey, Nat or Ryan Hogue could come. I could talk to them next week at the National, and they could set my mind at ease. Possibly, they'd have to convince me, and I'd probably want to go see it for myself to be certain. But otherwise, Pastor Craig's comment here is bang on. Chris C., you have to be cynical in this hobby because otherwise you're likely to be taken advantage of. Fair.
Yeah.
Sadly, but fair. Mike Petty, assume everything is a scam in this hobby until it's not. I don't want to live that way, but I think you have to have that skepticism going into things for sure. Orlando says, I'm against repacks, but do what you want with your money. So it's funny. Orlando's comment here, it's kind of polarizing, or it's a bit of a dichotomy. He's saying, I'm against repacks, but do what you want with your money. I think I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Orlando, but I think if I'm interpreting it properly, you're saying, I'm not going to buy repacks. I'm against them for myself, but go do what you want with your money. Or are you saying I'm against them existing in the hobby at all, and I wish they weren't here? Could be that's what he means. Dylan says, if I was at a baseball game and there was a PSA vending machine with vintage repacks and I had 3 beers in me, you bet I'm going to go back to my seat with 5 packs. That's a great idea, business-wise. Wesley Collect says, Jeff just flipped the repack game on its head. PSA certifying pulls, showing the odds. This isn't a mystery box. It's a mic drop. Well, it's both. It is a mystery drop. It is a mystery box, though, Wesley. It's just one that is transparent and certified as fair by PSA. But I think it's a mic drop. I think it's a great innovation for the repack world, and it will make some people comfortable. I'm curious, Joe, how many people have never considered buying a repack before, but now that PSA stamped it, that they would now buy one? Only because not because it's Jeff or Cards HQ, but because it's PSA. Would they now go buy one? And if they would, this is a bigger business for PSA than it is Cards HQ. Like, not even close. 90s B-ball cards. Jake, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Fernando says, are we gambling sending cards to be graded? If you have any expectations of what that grade is going to be, then yes, you are gambling 100%. Well, I mean, listen, if you think your card's an 8, you're gambling that it's coming back an 8. And even if it is an 8, there's probably about a 45% chance it'll be graded a, 7 or a 9. Foul ball, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Ben Burrows had this exact conversation with an executive one time, said they were an executive of card companies talking about the royalties. He said, Ben goes on to say, the executive said they were forced to raise prices because the Players Association forced them to. The company had been eating rising costs for years. And now they're going to be higher for Fanatics probably than ever before for anybody. Orlando says it's basic supply and demand. Card gamblers want to open wax and repacks. Yeah, they sure do. Junk Wax Museum, welcome to the show. Mike Petty says that's called hot potato musical chairs. Last one with it loses. Especially on a ultra modern card of a rookie who's, 90% of these things only go one way value wise, and that is down. So yeah, it is hot potato in terms of how many owners there are of a card before it finally, if ever, finds its resting home. And Midlife Greg says many modern cards are hot potatoes. Yeah, I think that's true. But what about vintage? Does vintage move around as much as modern? I don't know. I think the answer is probably no, but I don't want to, excuse it completely from being something that is also can be treated as a hot potato, especially a card that, and I've seen it before. I've seen a card that I thought, well, that's a nice card, and it gets relisted over and over and over again. And then I start to wonder, there must be something wrong with it that you just can't see in 2-dimension. Unicorn Cupcake says, I want to open $100 worth of packs and buy $100 worth of scratch-off tickets, record the result. Yeah. Sammy Thunder, I'd have to think that a lot of rarer vintage goes through a process of auction house hot potato. That's right. I think that's versus repack hot potato until vintage repacks become proliferated more than they currently are right now, I would have to think. Mike Petty says the lottery equals the idiot tax. Breaking and repacking is the lottery. Therefore, breaking and repacking is the idiot tax. I think it's a little bit harsh. I hear what you're saying. I think just the idiot language is a little bit harsh because some people just like to gamble and can't afford their losses. It's when you don't stop when you should that there's issues. And we've talked a lot about addiction and gambling recently, Joe. Hello to the professor. Goats. That one doesn't make much sense. Linda's first. I have a Gretzky Lemieux card. That is one that came directly out of a pack. So it's a one-person card. Those are the best. One-person cards are the best. Dan's Vintage. Bleeding money on apps like Whatnot gets old very quickly. A year from now, that guy's 100K in the hole. He told me he spent 50K. I think he said in the last 6 months. He said he spent 50K in the last 6 months. Good evening, Ziggy No. Stanley Gordon, repacks are the best opportunity for the high and mighty collector to flex their high integrity values. I think what Stanley Gordon here is saying that if you are a voice in the hobby and you are talking negatively about repacks, that is your opportunity to show your audience that you are high and mighty and you're flexing your high integrity values. He might be right. I mean, breaking as well, breaking anything that has a gambling aspect to it allows people to speak about it in a way that doesn't encourage people to use it. And if that is for the high and mighty collector to flex their high integrity values, I mean, I hope to have high integrity values. Yeah, I was thinking that too, Ziggy. No, Bob Boozle, I haven't seen him in a couple weeks either. I hope that Mr. Boozle is doing okay. Michael Thomas says, question, am I the only one feeling this is going to make player collecting harder? I don't think it's going to have an effect. I don't think it's going to have an effect that we're going to feel. Repacks are already out of control in terms of the volume and the amount of cards being sold to repackers. So is this going to standardize and legitimize it a little bit if PSA does scale this new business, this new service offering? I think it standardizes it and it might, I don't know if it's going to scale it much more than it already is. I mean, but then again, back when there were 5 breakers in the whole world, I thought that it was already overdone. Now there's thousands. So don't listen to what I say about that. Okay, Cute E Dgen says, I bet there will be repacks at the National that are all winners to hype this repack business. That's where you got to be skeptical for sure. It's similar to the loaded box theory, so something to consider. That's right. Andrew Anderson says, it all matters on what we find out what the markups are going to be. Well, Jeff said 15% on his, so you have to make money. There is labor involved, and there's the entertainment tax of it all too. There is entertainment value to some people. Some people say, why can't you just open your own packs? And other people either can't get there to do it or they don't mind other people doing it. So Laura says PSA is not the holy grail of repacks. Well, not yet, but are they as the arbiter of fairness, Laura, do they become the standard? Dan says there are some hot potato cards in vintage. Good to know. Good to know. Michael Ham says, BG, Brian Gray, said he is spending $5 million at the National for repacks. It's a big deal. And who is he going to have his certified by PSA? I doubt it. I doubt he would do that. But Brian Gray has always he's been set up at the National for 15 years with a buying station for repack products when he owned Leaf. So yep. Texas Rangers PC is a high integrity guy. Just ask me. Good one. Chris C says Petty has great hair and colorful language. He's great in my book. Mike Petty, my handsome friend. Ruben Snyder, this just in. Dan cramped up during typing that message. Dan says, I enjoy content where I can trust the channel is telling me the truth. 100%. I mean, that's you have to. You want to trust the people you're listening to, but sometimes you just can't, I suppose. Mike Petty says it's like opening a new casino. Everybody wins at the beginning. Yep. Retro 80 says Big Bri, the deal guy was flexing a $500,000 repack product buying spree. That's another person saying the same thing. What's up, Found Treasures? Good to see you. Michael Ham says go hit the like button. Yes, please go hit the like button. Okay. I got to the bottom of comments for the first time, Joe. So
well done.
The chat's lighting it up. So any further thoughts on the new Graded Grails collaboration with Cards HQ and PSA?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you and I both are just putting on our critical thinking hats and conducting the thought experiment of what this amounts to. It doesn't really affect me, I don't think. That's why I asked the question, how do these different, categories within the category interplay? I mean, that's a question for me. I mean, it seems to increase liquidity, if nothing else, which I benefit from time to time when I'm trying to consolidate into something. But yeah, I don't have any big, I think it's a kind of to be continued, and let's keep our eyes open and see what people's experiences are and how this all develops.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, and we'll see what comes. Maybe there'll be some breaking news at the National with respect to it. Who knows? Maybe not. Ben Burrow says something I think about often. What happens to the current secondary market for mid or high end cards if repacks went away? It's a great question. Maybe a thought experiment, Ben. I don't know that it's worthy of our time, because I don't think they're going away. They've been here for they've been here since the dawn of time, really. Since card shows started, people had mystery packs on their at their booth. So I don't think they're going away. Mookie Chills in the chat is very chatty tonight. Good to have you here, Mr. Mook. Good to have you. Dan says everyone's chatty because they're excited for the National. No doubt about that. Cannot wait for the National. Tony's fired up. Southern Collector. Check out his channel. Check out all these channels, guys. All right, let's switch it up, Joe. Let's move on to SGC. Pete Steinberg, everyone's favorite grading company president, has just announced that he is resigning from many people's favorite grading company, SGC. And what does that mean? I mean, I know, Joe, you've gone through a bit of a slab transformation over the last couple of years with your collection. How do you personally feel? Now, listen, a change in CEO, this happens all the time. But I think the nugget that is really getting people's heads spinning right now is when Ryan Hogue said on Neo's show, by the way, Neo, if you're still there, great job on that, that SGC is going to look to become a boutique grading firm, similar to the way it was before COVID. Well, guys, I just want to say one thing. Like, to me, SGC was never a boutique grading company. They were a serious competitor in the grading landscape going back to the early 2000s, maybe even earlier. But I mean, I remember walking the National in 2005, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8. There were as many, if not more, SGC slabs than PSA. So I don't know that they were ever a boutique grading company. That seems weird to me. I might be wrong. I'm happy to be set straight on that if they were a boutique, but I never really saw them that way. So now I see them as, they were serious threat, serious competitor, I should say, acquired by collectors. And it looks like they're kind of winding it down a little bit. Maybe not to get rid of the brand, but who was I just watching? I think was it Neo or Greg watching today? God, come on, who was I watching? Because I want to give credit where credit's due, but I think what's going to happen is that the SGC brand simply becomes another service offering when you fill out your PSA form. Would you like the PSA slab or the SGC slab? Just pick one. Pick whichever one you want. Because what I think Ryan also said on Neo's show was that the graders from SGC are kind of moving over to SGC, or at least are being shared more widely. So yeah, lots there, Joe, but let's go to you as a collector. Where are you right now on SGC?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to sort of acknowledge that there's been a lot of content created about this, and I want to acknowledge Neo's interview to start with, and then all the follow-ups, right? All the different perspectives, all the reading between the lines, this, that, and the other. And I don't really care to opine on, prognosticate on things in the future. My position is someone who has probably graded about upwards of 100 cards with SGC over the last year. Some of those are converting or crossing over old green label SGC slabs into the tuxedo. Some of them are converting old BVG slabs, and in some cases GAI and SCD. So this is a project that I felt was important to get my slabs into what I understood as, a very reputable vintage, because most of these cards were vintage, company that, in my estimation, has a strong capacity to assess cards accurately, and knows their way around the whole, the pre-war, the vintage market. So I felt very comfortable doing that. Now I must say, in the last week but even before that, I mean, as soon as PSA acquired SGC, I started to get a little anxious about have I done something that might detract from the values of my cards in SGC slabs. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster, if I'm being honest. Because I am susceptible to different perspectives, and I hear one person saying one thing, another person saying another thing. I think what I come back to in all of this is that the card is still the card. The cards in my collection are still the cards that they always were, whatever slab they're in. And I trust the savvy, experienced vintage collectors to be able to contextualize whether or not, the era of a slab, the condition of the card within the slab, which sort of gives me the feeling of like, okay, there's nothing to worry about too much. Like there's not like a crash and burn situation, but there is, I think, an interesting territory ahead where we will see how the market treats SGC slabs. And I should throw in, I also have graded a fair amount of sort of modern and a few ultra modern cards in the SGC, just because I tend to throw things in to grading orders that I think might be beneficial. And I live in a very, ocean environment with lots of humidity, and I like my cards protected. So I tend to do that. So those are actually the cards I'm a little more concerned about or feel like I might have to do something with. Not so much the vintage, but some of my Curry cards, some of my Prism cards, some of the cards that are a little newer. How are they going to settle over time? Am I going to eventually, if I want to get full value for them, need to crack them out? But at this point, with the higher level cards that I have in SGC holders, I'm not real worried about it. And frankly, I like a lot of them in the tucks. But it is forestalling me. Like, I have a couple Gaudy Ruths in old BVG holders. I have a 1 and a 1.5 that I was going to send to SGC because I just feel like they would present better in an SGC slab, and I feel like moving forward, SGC. But I'm pausing on that. I don't think I'm going to do that because I'm not quite sure, what the future holds. So it's also hard to just send a Babe Ruth card in the mail, right? And they're not showing up at shows anymore. So I think I'm pressing pause overall as a collector, and I'm trusting that the vintage market understands vintage cards in any slab. And I'm just kind of raising a little bit of an eyebrow around, some of this messaging and thinking about some of my modern and ultra modern cards. Maybe they won't be in those slabs forever.
Yeah. I'm lucky in this situation. I only have 1 or 2 SGC slabs in my collection. I'm not a fan of the slab at all. I not even for vintage, not for modern. I prefer the PSA slab for vintage. But again, my personal taste. I'm not trying to push that on anybody. Collect how you like, for sure.
Right.
So I think it's gonna go ahead.
Well, I just want to say I've got a lot of PSA vintage as well. Here's a maze that I just got to assuage my pain of not going to the National. I had Fanatics send me this, so I finally got this maze rookie in hand. Anyway.
And he's keeping it low because it'll that's a beauty. I love the 51. He's showing a 51 Bowman Willie Mays rookie card, and a great image on that card.
Yeah, it's actually I'd be curious. This is a bit of a side question, but this was graded authentic, and I'm never quite sure if it's PSA deeming it authentic because it's got too much paper loss on the back, or if it was the original submitter who decided to just put it in authentic as opposed to getting a 1, which it most certainly would. I never know how to decide that. If anybody's like a savant on these PSA things and can help me understand, but I'm guessing PSA deemed not to give it a grade because of the paper loss on the back.
Yeah, well, that's not worthy of just an authentic, I don't think, unless they think it was
crease.
If they thought it was trimmed, they would add altered,
creases.
right? If they thought it was,
yeah, I think so, and it doesn't. Anyway, that was a little bit of a detour. I was just showing that I do also have PSA cards as well.
Well, SFO Sox fan says that maze is fantastic. Nice one, Joe. Mookie's bidding $100 on your maze card, Joe. So didn't know we were hosting an auction tonight, but there we go. Yeah, he's keeping secrets from you, Dylan. Peeps says paper loss with PSA usually gets authentic. I was not aware. Thank you, Peeps, for that information. Michael Ham says greater notes would be helpful. Wouldn't they be, though? Wouldn't they be? Good luck figuring out PSA, says Michael Stone to you, Joe. Dennis Moore, Joe, most likely the submitter requested auth only, didn't want the grade. Peeps said PSA isn't great with vintage. Okay, what a flex, Joe, says Benny Cromwell. Oh, and the bid is up to 150 now on that card. So let's go to some more comments here, guys.
Yeah.
Michael Ham says Pete has to do an interview. Yeah, I know he's done a few with Neo. I don't think I've ever had him on. I've chatted with him in person, but never had him on. Will he do one? He might, but he's too much of a pro to air any dirty laundry if he even has any. Flippin' Steve says repacks are a great way to move stale inventory. They are a little bit of legacy repack stuff here now. Michael Ham says PSA has downgraded SGC. And right. And is it deliberate? Midlife Greg. Ryan Hogue said they're planning on bringing SGC back to 2017 levels. Why? Because they bought them. Now they have redundancies, so they're looking for synergy to lower their overhead cost, their overall cost, their burn rate. They're looking to reduce costs. Oftentimes, it's a great way to position yourselves to go public. Michael Stone says, agree, Ham. Collectors is trying to make SGC irrelevant. Michael Ham says, SGC equals BVG. Yeah, it could be. Chris C says, SGC was great for vintage. It's just sad, but it's collector's universe, so not surprised. Called Shot Card says, I hope collectors shrinks the size of the number grade on the SGC slab. That number is too big and distracting. Ruben Snyder says, Jeremy, how prevalent is KSA? Is that a boutique grading company? Ruben, I don't know what a boutique grading company is, to be honest. If it's just small, like a company that maybe does, 50,000 cards a month or less, or 10,000, I don't know, but I have no idea how many cards KSA grades. They've been around almost as long as PSA has. They are semi-respected by some Canadian collectors. I don't own a single card in their slab, and I pause or hesitate too, because I've just heard stories about a lot of altered cards sneaking their way into those slabs. Michael Ham says Neo is the chosen one. Yeah, as far as like the news shows in the hobby, I watch two now. I watch Neo's weekly update and Mike Junkwax Hero. I like to see what he's got to say as far as news reporting goes. You've got I'm on the Collect email list, so I get their stuff and I read the emails, and we have Ben Burrows on here once a quarter or so. But yeah, Neo does a great job with his weekly reports. Simon King Collectibles says, rest in peace, SGC. Neo himself says, PSA is too protective of the PSA brand to have SGC as an option on the PSA website. In my opinion, that's a good point. So maybe what they do with SGC is take the slab and just change it from an SGC slab to a PSA slab. Maybe it's PSA boutique, or maybe it's PSA vintage. I don't know what they do, but they know what they'll do probably. Long live the tuxedo, says Simon King. Called Shot says, I have shown non-card collectors the SGC slab, and they all said the large number looks ridiculous. That's not my biggest issue with the slab. It's just the black inlay I don't like. I don't like the tux. Michael Stone, Beckett has an opportunity, but do you really trust him to take advantage? If Peter is even able to go work for a competing grading company, he may have a non-compete. It could last a couple of years. And would he honor it? I mean, non-competes often are not enforced. But anyway, Junkwax Museum says, if it's about the slab, SGC is way too bulky. And Skeppy says, how would they just let you pick the slab? Wouldn't that be a problem because of grading standard differences? All right. Good comments there, everybody. Thank you for all of that. Ben Burrows, I asked Pete on Friday for an interview, and he declined, said he's laying low for now. Yeah, I'm sure he is, and that's what he should do. So Flipping C says, don't worry, Joe. It has great eye appeal, probably worth $1 million. I don't think it's worth $1 million, Flippin' Steve, but hey, I got some cards I want to sell you, Flippin' Steve, if that's how you're valuing some of these things. Oh, here's one. Here's a comment from Peeps, Joe. It says, not trying to be harsh, just think PSA doesn't want to be bothered with minutia. I own vintage in PSA too. Yeah, maybe they just bought them to get rid of them. And whatever they're telling us publicly, and look, Ryan Hogue's one of the nicest guys I've met in the hobby over the years. He seems like a straight shooter, but there's still going to be corporate messaging, the outward corporate messaging, and then there's going to be the actual plan. And I just don't know that they're always going to be in sync.
What about the part about just bringing the SGC graders over to the PSA side of things?
Well, I mean, the biggest problem there is, well, what does SGC have now? Like, who's grading over there? I mean, for PSA or collectors to buy SGC to get the experienced graders, especially the vintage graders there, I mean, that's a great play by PSA for sure to bring them over, right?
I'd say so. I mean, and because, we've got people in the chat, and occasionally I do wonder, with the magnitude of cards that PSA receives, if they have, enough vintage graders. It's one thing to train someone up, whether or not, they're fully trained, whether or not we're dealing with, all graders being at a certain level or not. But vintage graders, that's a very specific and high level skilled profession, right? I mean, you need to be coming at your vintage world with like a lot of experience. And so, I mean, if nothing else, the acquisition, if it positions them to poach, 5 or 10 super experienced vintage graders, I mean, that might've been worth the price right there.
It could have been. Yeah, exactly. William says, have you seen Nat Turner's collection? Lots of PSA 10s that are not 10s. He showed them up close and they are not 10s. Also conflict of interest, PSA having an eBay account. I mean, listen, this is an unregulated industry. So is there a conflict? Maybe. Well, not maybe. It probably is a conflict of interest. But, I don't want to pick on Nat Turner's collection of PSA 10s here because everybody has PSA 10s that are not 10s. I mean, everyone has 8s that are not 8s and 9s that are not 9s. Like if you have a library of graded cards in your collection, 40 to 45%, my guess, would be graded differently a second time. Close to 50 would get a different grade the second time.
Jay Lee, I totally agree with you. And so we don't need to pick on Nat. I am jealous of his collection. So you mentioned that the SGC news doesn't affect you directly because you really only have I think you have one big card in an SGC holder, and I don't even know if it's the tuxedo. I think it's the old green slab, right?
It's
your root something.
Yeah, it's the old green slab. I think it's still a tuxedo because it's got I thought the tuxedo referred to the black inlay.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not.
Is it got the green flip, the sort of
prescription?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't call those tuxedos, but maybe they are. Anyway, the question is, from a more general standpoint, how do you feel if it goes in the direction of SGC sort of gradually getting, demoted or bled out over time to irrelevance, which I hope it doesn't. I'm not rooting for that. But if it does, what is your perspective on that in terms of the hobby overall? How do you feel about that? Even though you don't own SGC slabs, how do you feel about that as someone that's, been in this hobby space for upwards of 40 years?
And sorry, just to clarify, you're asking, how do I feel about cards and SGC slabs moving forward?
No, I'm asking you, how do you feel about the potentiality of SGC essentially being diminished to a point where they're not actually a factor in the grading space?
I mean, in a way, I'd be sad to see a great brand like that go away, but these things happen. It's out of our hands. Yeah, I mean, it just makes PSA more of a, monopoly, or leaning more towards monopoly in the hobby. There are competitors, Beckett hasn't gone away. CGC is still there, as well as, other smaller grading companies too, like Tag and others. So, but at the end of the day, when you got 90+% of the market share and everyone else has 10 combined, you're as close to monopoly as you can possibly get. So, I don't know how I feel about it.
Fair. I mean, I'm not getting energy. I'm not getting backflips and, rah. But, and that's been a little bit of what's been heavy on my heart is I kind of like having options, and people have been talking about CGC, a Beckett Renaissance. We don't know. I mean, obviously Tag's kind of fallen into the TCG niche, the Pokemon niche. But yeah, I'm just wondering how hobbyists across the land, the world, are feeling this kind of PSA,
Okay, well, hang on a sec, guys, because we have a couple things I want to do. I want to go through some comments. Grant Patterson has come into the studio from GP Sports, and he's Canadian, and he is going to be making the trip to the National. He's also going to be hosting one of the hockey trade night on Saturday. So we're going to bring him on in a minute just to, hype up the trade night a little bit and let us know what he's going through as a Canadian crossing the border. We'll have him for about 15 minutes. And then Ben Hossler and Chris Hoge are going to join us. So Grant, give me just a couple more minutes. We're going to run through some comments here really quick. And thank you to Mitch Grotman, Davius Sports, and a couple others who advised that non-competes are no longer legal in the United States. Which makes sense because they're never enforced. Anyway, Neo Cards says collectors bought SGC to basically instantly have a fully staffed new location and played keep away from Fanatics, in my opinion. I mean, that just makes too much sense, right? So Lucky K says, my main concern is that typically in a company takeover, key employees are required to stick around for a while. Otherwise, they lose a lot of money. I think PSA bought the graders. Right. Big Mac says, let's be honest, Peter was fired. I don't disagree, but it's not like fired. It's like kind of, they talk about slow quitting where you just maybe don't show up for work anymore. You slow quit. I think he might have been slow fired. Listen, I've been slow fired before when my company got taken out by a bigger company and my role was diminished to the point where it's like, I don't want to be here anymore. So I resigned. And in talking to my boss, who was the CFO at the time, we came up with messaging for my team. I had a 6-person team that I had to let go know that I was leaving and they're going to have to report to somebody else. Well, we coordinated that messaging. Guaranteed, Peter's message was coordinated. He didn't write that himself. Nothing against him, and I'm sure he said what he wanted to say in a lot of ways, but that's just how these things are orchestrated. Eric Young says, I also feel like Collectors was removing competition besides keeping SGC away from Fanatics. So right there too. And Flipping Steve says 5 out of every 10 cards are graded inaccurately. Sounds like grading is a scam. Scam's a big word. I don't think grading's a scam, but I think that it's not perfect either. Okay, let's bring Grant on. Grant, we're going to bring on for about 10 minutes. Everybody, please say hello to Grant Patterson from GP Sports, a buddy of mine, a hockey. He's a bit of a tycoon in the world of hockey card collecting, buying and selling. He's got a great shop and probably the best booth at the Toronto Sport Card Expo. Grant, you looking forward to heading down to Chicago for the National?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy, for having me on. Yeah, super excited. It's like Christmas for the show-wise. You get the Toronto show and the National. It's my 2 favorite shows of the year. So super pumped, excited, just a couple days away, and excited to see everybody.
Right on. So share your messages here. First thing is, hockey is going to have a carved out space during one of the trade nights, just like Vintage has a trade night on Saturday. Hockey has a trade night on Friday. You will be hosting it, promoting it, doing some breaking during it. Any message you want people to hear? What about giveaways? What can people get for free at the hockey trade night? Let's say if they were lucky enough to win something.
Yeah, so we are helping host this year on it's actually Friday this year that we're helping host the hockey section. So the official trade night of the National is right up the escalator at the event, and so we're going to have for the first time ever a section for hockey, a designated section for hockey, and we're getting to lead the way there. We're also going to have tickets at our booth for hockey collectors to come by and pick up a ticket to the trade night. So if anyone's looking to come to the trade night, you can stop by our booth. We're right across from Panini. It's booth number 857, and we'll be handing out tickets to the hockey section of that trade night. For giveaways, we got some cool prizes from Upper Deck given away. We got 3 complete draft boards from the whole rookie class signed. That's some big prizes there. And then we're going to be on stage breaking a few cases of cards that will be given away as well. So a ton of fun stuff, and excited to see everybody on the Friday trade night.
And, I forget the gentleman's name who recently passed away, who always had a great hockey booth at the National, like Hockey Cards Only, I think was the name of his booth. His name is, do you know who I'm talking about, Grant? No? Well, he's no longer with us. I think his wife might be manning the booth this year, I heard a while ago. But are you bringing the hockey goodness to the National this year? Are people going to be able to know that, hey, this must be GP Sports Cards booth when they get to it because he's got all the hockey?
Yeah, I'm excited. We're going to have 98% hockey booth. It's going to be filled with a whole bunch of our inventory, just like I say, for the Toronto show. There's a lot of stuff that we get in from collections, mail days, all that fun stuff. And we are sort of a different aspect and style of reseller, you could say, than most. Most of our stuff we keep for these shows, and none of our stuff hits online. So it hasn't been on eBay, and we bring stuff that, hasn't surfaced before. So I'm super excited. It's always fun, these type of shows, sort of like the main event of the year for us. So we'll have a ton of hockey at the booth, and we'll be buying, selling, and trading all show long. So excited to sort of get some more hockey at the National. That's one thing I've felt over the last few years, especially when you go to the different cities like Atlantic City and Columbus. There wasn't as much hockey there. I'm hoping this year in Chicago, especially with Bedard, we have a ton more of hockey collectors there, and excited to sort of have some more hockey on the floor.
Right on. Yeah, me too. It's not always easy to find a great hockey selection, so it's good to see you there. You'll be bringing a great, I know you do, guys, like at the Expo in Toronto. If you haven't been there and seen his booth, it's one of the biggest booths at the show. I don't know how many tables you have, like 20 for yourself, it seems like. All showcases with nice cards in them. And it's also like the busiest because you're very fair with your pricing. Grant has a very efficient system for pricing and buying. So I recommend if you want to look at nice hockey cards, go check out what are the booth numbers again, Grant, for everybody?
857 to 859. So we're right across from the corporate booths of DA Car World and Panini.
Awesome. And okay, and then second topic with you is and then what, guys, just by the way, in about 5 minutes, we're going to lose Grant, we're going to lose Joe, and we're going to gain Ben and Chris. But in the meantime, tell us a bit about what sort of hoops you have to jump through as a Canadian now crossing the border into the U.S. to do some business, considering the new political climate and even the pre-existing border issues.
Yeah, so we actually, Mitch up there on the screen may or may not have a lot of items of mine at his house right now in Chicago. So we had to ship down the displays and a whole bunch of cards through the mail. And right now he's storing them all. So he's not the happiest with me because I think I'm taking up 3 of his closets right now. But that's sort of what we're doing. And again, just anything to get some more hockey on the show floor for the National. We had to be there. So.
All right. Well, good stuff. I want to thank you for sharing that. Anything else you'd like to mention, Grant? I know you're just kind of popping in quick here but I want to thank you for supporting the show here. Guys, Grant does do online hockey breaks on YouTube. He doesn't do breaks on the whatnots of the world. He does it right on YouTube. gpsportscards.com is his website, and he's got a retail storefront in the Toronto area as well. Any final message, Grant?
No, I'm excited to see everybody there. If you guys got hockey and you're a hockey fan, stop by the booth. Love to meet everybody and say hi. And excited for the show. So,
do you have any non-hockey in your booth?
I do, but again, like I always try to be super, super fair with my prices. And down there's a different breed for football, basketball. It typically gets scooped up, honestly, within like the first hour or two. So we bring it, but it sells very fast.
Okay. All right. Well, Eric Young's definitely going to stop by. Starren Co., Grant the GOAT. Can Grant show some Crosbys or Shields? Colin Murray says Hockey Card Exchange will be set up at booth 10,000. That's all vintage, by the way, guys. Colin Murray has an amazing booth at whatever show he's at. And it's not just hockey, by the way. I've picked up some nice non-hockey, some nice 53 baseball from him. He's got a great selection all the time. Check out Hockey Card Exchange, guys, booth 10,000 as well. Grant, yeah, well, hey, listen, I'm glad you got a chance to come on and share. Wanted to just get John quick to, let people know you'll be there. Unless anything else you want to say.
No, that's it. I appreciate it, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
All right, you bet.
We'll see you in a few days.
Okay, yeah, see you soon. Drive safe. Travel safe. Travel safe. All right, Joe, you didn't even get to say hi to him, but that was a quick in and out. Okay, I'm still waiting for Ben and Chris to come into the studio at all. So, Joe, I know we're already keeping you overtime. Joe's not sticking around the whole night tonight. You don't have to stick around. You're free to go. I can handle it myself if you want to stick around.
Yeah, I'll hang out till the fellas make it to the studio.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. So let's go to some comments. Unless you have anything on your mind first.
No, not particularly. No, I just, I mean, it's exciting to hear people gearing up for the National. And I know you must be. I was going to ask you, do you have any goals for the National? I mean,
yeah. So when I look at my calendar for next week in Chicago, like, I'm just gonna there's my calendar right there. So I've got things throughout all the days, different, I'm in the podcast studio doing some podcasts. I'm going to be hosting something on the main stage, the Burkus stage. I'm going to be hosting a panel discussion about set collecting or not set collecting, customizing checklists. Chris Sewell, baseball card collector, investor, dealer, will be joining me on that panel. As one person, I'm still recruiting for the Ret to fill out that panel, whether it's one or two more people. So outside of all the appointments I have, meeting with different people and entities, my goals on the collecting side are, I have one like high priority target. Don't know I'll find the right copy. And if I don't, that's fine. And then I've got like probably 24 low priority, affordable cards that I want to find in my eye appeal criteria to add. So I hope to come away with like 5 or 6 cards that I just love. I just love.
That's interesting. I think I kind of know the high priority ones, but 24 are any some of your recent interest in, like, I know you've been collecting a little 57 Topps baseball. I know you kind of got a little bit excited with some sort of mid vintage baseball stuff recently. I don't know, but anything you can reveal on the lower level priorities?
I mean, it's mostly like non-rookie cards of guys like Yogi Berra and Ted Williams and DiMaggio and Musial and Spawn. That's where, even like Jim Brown and, like non-rookie year cards of Hall of Famers, GOAT-ish type players that everyone's so focused on rookies. I think there's beauty in non-rookie year cards that are not going to break the bank, and I'm going to get a ton of enjoyment out of them. So that's where my head and heart is right now, is on, again, just basically non-rookie cards of players that I want to collect. Yeah. And it's basically all like pre-19, like 60, I would say. Pre-1960 for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
58, 57, 56. Cool. Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
I know we'll be talking and communicating, but I look forward to sort of maybe do a couple IG reels like you do. You put on the headset and kind of walk around, and your stature allows you to see quite a bit.
Yeah, maybe I will do that. Maybe I will do that for sure. Okay, before we bring on Ben and Chris, I'm just going to run through, Joe, some comments first, and then I'll let you say hi to those guys, and then you can pop off. So first off, Greg Midlife says, even if someone doesn't use SGC, they'll be affected if SGC is cannibalized. PSA prices won't drop, turnaround times won't drop, customer service won't improve. Yeah, there will be that butterfly effect of that happening, and Greg is probably right on several of those repercussions. Game Time Gallery says, SGC founder Dave Foreman is the one who made out like a bandit. Doubt that Pete got a golden parachute to step down. Probably got a year or two of pay, or 6 months, or who knows what. Iconic Al says, in 5 years, it'll be PSA and Fanatics owned Beckett. Could be. Double D Dylan, I will say this. I am very glad. I don't care what slab my cards are in. Yeah, that's, at the end of the day, buy the card, not the grade, right? Buy the card, not the slab. Foul Ball, with his, like clockwork, makes the comment every week, grading is a scam. Thank you, Foul Ball. I knew I could count on you. Mookie Chilson says, Greg is right. Less competition is bad for everyone. Michael Ham, I don't feel like there's enough time to do everything at the National. It's crazy, right? Rolling Skinway says, reposted the stream. Thank you very much. Texas Rangers PC, Hoge Rabbit Hole incoming. As always, you can count on that. He's chuckling in the back room right now. Dan Brown says, Jeremy, are we getting any content from you at the National? Well, like Joe just said, I might do one of those walk and talk reels. And then Michael Stone, any particular year you like the most, Jeremy? I love 53 baseball. Yeah, I love, pre-war, like pre-1950, I love it. I love 51 Bowman, and I love 57 Topps. And I love the Bowman and the Gaudis from pre-war as well. I just love all that stuff, guys. It's like, there's just so much great stuff back then. So good evening, Eddie's Cardboard Chaos. Dan's Vintage, you should invite Greg to one of those open panel spots. Thank you for the suggestion. Steve Splenda, welcome to the show. And Mitch Grotman says, Joe, have you ever found that any cards in your collection have been materially affected from living in a high humidity environment? Answer that one quick, Joe, and then we'll switch this up.
Yes, and particularly sort of in the realm of like late 80s to 2000s, like the cards can get very sticky and it's hard to get the gunk off them. So yes.
You have. Yeah. And Skeppy says that is really, 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 really bad advice, Jay Lee. Don't buy the card, buy the grade. Right on. All right. Let's bring Ben and Chris on. You guys get to pop on. Thumbs up. We got him. All right. We're going to bring on Ben Hossler from Rolling Insights, Chris Hoge from Chris Hoge, and Card Ladder, of course. And guys, Joe's going to leave us. So I'll let everybody say first, thank you, Joe. You guys say hi and bye.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Okay, good to hi and bye, and thank you, Jay Lee. Thanks to the chat, and thanks. I hope everybody that's going to the National has a safe experience and a prosperous experience, and gets to hang out with a lot of people. I'll be there with you in spirit, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good rest of your night.
All right, take care, everybody.
You too. You too. There we go. Later, Joe from Texas Rangers, SFO. Joe rules. Joe, you're awesome from Dan. Hoge in the hizzy. Flippin' Steve. If PSA sponsored Jeremy's show, you can bet his take on repacks and conflicts would be different. That's interesting, Flipping Steve. I didn't know you felt that way about me. It's good to know. Thanks for showing up, buddy. Appreciate it. And I wish you all the best. And I love what you do with your national giveaway, Steve. It's really nice that you send someone to the national. I think that's wonderful that you do that and you rally your community. And so a big hats off and kudos to Flipping Steve for all the good that he does in this wonderful hobby of mine. And if anybody ever would like to come on and ask me about any of my sponsorships up there and how I operate, considering that I have so many wonderful relationships in this hobby and so many supportive partnerships, I'm happy to do that. Okay, Mike Good. Jeremy, do you have anything against CGC? No, I don't have anything against any grading company, Mike Good. I don't like everything about them, but I don't have anything against it. No, I think they have a nice slab. No, I don't. But thanks for asking, Mike. Victor, what's going on with you? By the way, kudos to Victor on a couple of recent episodes with Chris McGill on the channel, on Victor's channel. Kudos to both of you. But you guys, I want to say one thing about this is that, first of all, Victor, if I may, and sorry, Ben and Chris, as I'm just going off here. If I may, Victor, he's elevated his content, I think. Victor, I really like what you're doing right now. And the discourse that you've had, these couple episodes with Chris have been extremely informative and thought-provoking. So thank you very much for doing those. Good job on you for that. Okay, Chris and Ben, welcome back to the show. It's good to have you. Ben making his monthly appearance. He's with Rolling Insights, who is a sponsor of Sports Cards Live. You see their logo way in the top left corner. And we bring Ben on to help merge the data and cards together. And football's around the corner right now, Ben. And as you mentioned to me in an email today, actually, I'm not going to pretend to repeat or remember exactly what you said to me, but you've done some upgrades to the data. So why don't you share what you've done? And by the way, Chris, hi, and nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. I'm so excited for the National. Can't wait.
Me too. I cannot wait. It is going to be action-packed. All right. Ben, do you want to just sort of present what you are going to, or explain what you're going to be presenting?
Yeah, I can do that. Football's around the corner, but I hope we all have some Nick Kurtz rookie cards after that game he had for the A's last night. It was pretty crazy. 4 home runs. But yeah, so obviously I've been coming on the stream for a while now, and we did this the last time I was on. Like, we're kind of in a spot now to where, we can update what we have previously talked about on some of my earlier appearances and make it better, take some of the chat's feedback. And what I'm doing is, if we're going to talk about quarterbacks tonight, which we did back around the NFL draft, I believe it was. That was back in May. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for everyone watching to access what we are speaking about. So what we're doing is, I'm taking my data space where I have all of the data, I have all the card information, I have all the stats that I've put together. we put it together into a nice little blog post for you guys. And this is free to access as always on here. So if you guys in the chat, you can just go over to rollinginsights.com. And I can share my screen if you want, Jeremy. But
yeah, why don't we show the power of what it is you're doing and talk a bit about it. Are you ready for me to bring it on and you can talk through it, and Chris and I can ask some questions, as can the chat if they would like to. Maybe make maybe. Oh, okay. I'll let you steer.
So this is the blog post that we've made. I've already preloaded some of my thoughts on the data space in here, and you guys can just access the data space directly by clicking on that image right there. It'll pull up the data for you, and you can at least view it. And then you can obviously, if you have an account up here, the sign up, you can go in and play around with it. But it's super easy to access for you guys. And like I said, I've already preloaded a lot of my thoughts on the data space in there. So if you don't have time, if you're not around, whatever, you can go back and check at least what I've thought about this prior. So just trying to make it as easy as possible for you guys to access. And like I said, we've already talked about quarterbacks before. So what I've done for tonight is, like I said, we talked about this a few months ago. I updated their card prices. So you can see we had their Prism rookie PSA 10 prices in here. I've updated that to what they currently are. I've added in the pop count of the card, which I know the chat has wanted. And Jeremy, you've talked about that as well in prior appearances. We have their Instagram followers there. So it kind of like is interesting to me analyzing this, looking like you have brought up prior, the pop count of some of these cards, and just looking at how the prices have moved. I mean, I think the last time I was on here, we talked about, would Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, like, would they see card decreases because we were heading into the off season? There wasn't going to be football going on, which we've seen that carry over, right? Jaden Daniels has gone from 92 down to 79 most recent sale. Caleb Williams from 98 down to 70 most recent sale. And something that sticks out to me, again, I can compare these card numbers to what I have deemed valuable in terms of the stats. So I've created my own stat, the quarterback score. This is last year's stats. Brock Purdy is still number 2 in this metric last season, and his card price is still one of the cheapest of all of these young quarterbacks. And I can't wrap my head around it. I know we talked about Brock Purdy the last time I was on here. I know Chris is a big Brock Purdy fan, and I'm pretty bullish on him having a good season. The 49ers have an extremely soft schedule. I just saw today, looking at some early stuff, they have a close to a 60% win probability in, I think, almost 14 of their games out of all the 17 games that they'll play this season. So the 49ers have a soft schedule. I'm assuming that he's going to have a pretty big statistical season again. And I still think it's interesting to see, his card cost in relation to some of these others like Drake May, who has only played one season. They're about the same. Bryce Young's trended up a little bit, but again, like Brock Purdy has went to a conference championship game. And I just think it's interesting to kind of analyze that in relation to where he grades out statistically versus these other guys.
And you added PSA pop reports or pop counts on this report as well. I can see it there.
Direct from Card Ladder.
Very nice. Very nice. Good to see you guys working together on that. And I think, I think that's an interesting, it's almost not interesting. It's a necessity really in my mind to have that on there, because now you've got the updated sale price. You've got the pop count. You can calculate the market cap of that particular grade of that card. And that's another metric that you could do to rank the card. What is the total value at any given time of all the cards that exist? And Chris, do you guys offer that stat? Yes, you do. You have that stat on your Card Ladder profile pages for the cards, don't you?
Yeah, if the card has a profile in the ladder, yes, you can click into his profile. You can get its market cap.
If it's on the ladder, not just from the sale. Yeah, not if it's just in the sale prices. So, but if you're building out yourself a data set here with Rolling Insights or SportWise, I think that's a key thing to look at. If you are in the world of prospecting or you like to buy and sell during the season, maybe you want to know when's a good time to sell off the cards that you got in the repacks that you're buying. I don't know. There's all sorts of ways that you can use this information to your advantage. One thing I want to mention, this is kind of off topic, but there's always advice that comes out, and I'm just going to take your screen off for 1 second, Ben, but there is always regularly, we see people giving advice. Now's the time to sell your this, sell your that. It's very common advice. It's a very common nature of advice, if that makes sense, to be time to sell. You know, you also hear about time to buy at times, but when people say it's time to sell, you're as many favors as you're doing to the sellers you're speaking about, you're hurting the buyers that they're going to sell to, are you not? If you're saying to somebody, it's time to sell, okay, great. But do you not care about the buyers that are going to be buying those? Like, this is something that I've had this thought in my show notes for Sports Cards Live for like 5 months. And I just don't think I've ever found the time to mention it. Maybe I have, but let's just take a quick detour here, Ben. And I'd like to hear, Chris, your thoughts on that. If you're giving someone advice to sell, are you doing a disservice to whoever may buy that card from that person you're giving the advice to?
I've always found that interesting too. Why is the advice geared towards the seller? Why isn't the advice geared towards the buyer?
Yeah, don't be buying.
Yeah, why isn't the advice don't buy? Why is it always geared towards the seller? I've always been fascinated by that too. Why is the advice only going to that side? What about the other side? I noticed that. I noticed.
So
that
I'm not
myself.
alone. I'm not alone.
No, not at all. I think about that too. Like, why is, I don't know.
We'll have to, we can workshop that one and talk about it on another episode. Maybe if we have some great insights. Speaking of insights, Ben from Rolling Insights. Okay, Ben, I'm going to put the screen back up. And is there, Texas Ranger says, because that's the pump, right? That's the pump, right? Ben, I was saying, I think, the pop count, market cap is interesting. I see you have Instagram followers on here too, guys. If you can kind of see, it's just to the right of pop count. That's something that Ben added after we had some conversations a while ago. And it's all interesting and so on SportsWise, just so I understand, Ben, and the audience can understand, I can use SportsWise on Rolling Insights. SportsWise is a product within the Rolling Insights umbrella where you can create your own. So you guys have all the master stats in the database, and I can pick the ones I want, put them in different columns, add some custom ones, and then use this to track player performance versus card performance, populations, and all these things moving forward. And if you want to factor in an external factor like Instagram followers to give you an idea of how popular the player is in society and culture, you can do that too. Is that a fair and accurate representation of what people can do with your product and service?
Yeah, it's basically a spreadsheet on steroids. You can, like I've done here, I'm analyzing, card data, which I've, have the stats that we already have on SportWise. And then we have a custom data upload feature where I've added like Instagram followers. You can add whatever you want into that now with the custom data upload. You can sync up your fantasy league. So we're getting to fantasy football season. So if you guys play fantasy football leagues on Yahoo or Fantrax, you can sync that directly into SportWise, and you can create a data space like this for your league. You can analyze, other teams, your teams. It'll help you make waiver wire moves and all sorts of stuff. And I mean, speaking of that, if there's any fantasy football players in the chat, we have a free draft kit on the website as well. So all of you guys can access that. You have direct access to me, in our Discord. My rankings are on there. I'll help you with your drafts. Just reach out to me. So.
Yeah, at Ben Hossler, is that your Instagram?
Yeah, that's my Instagram, my Twitter, and like I said, you can join the Discord for free. All this is for free to anyone watching, so you can head to the rollinginsights.com. You can check the social links at the bottom there and join through that.
Awesome. Well, hey, listen, I know that. Listen, guys, Ben prepares for coming on the show here once a month. And he does want to bring some value to some of you. I know some of you are using the data, the environment on Rolling Insight and SportWise here that Ben does present. So thank you guys for doing that. And hopefully it's bringing some value to some of them here. Ben, Ziggy No has a question. Is the data Ben is using interfacing with AI to do any prediction? It's a good question.
Yeah, we're actually, I've showed this on the stream prior. I don't think I've showed off the tool, but we are working on an AI integration directly into SportWise. So we will have AI that you can interact with within your data space, and you can ask it any questions that you want, and it can assist. And eventually the goal is, we're going to have coaches within those as well. So you'll be able to talk to my AI in your data space. So if you want my direct thoughts, I'll have my own version of my AI in there, or just the general one, Steve, all the other people that work at our company as well.
So, okay, this is great because for the past several months, we've been bringing Chris Hoge on the show, Ben Hossler. Now we've got Chris GPT, we've got Ben AI. It's nice to know that we're really upping the technological sophistication of the guests here on the show. Well, thanks, Ben, for doing that, and very nice to share with everybody. I like that you guys are offering that as a free product for people watching. I'm sure there are upgrades and all that. Question for the professor. Jeremy, could you clarify your comment? Is Card Ladder working with Ben collaboratively, or is Ben just using the data available as a subscriber to Card Ladder? I don't know the answer to that. Do either of you want to take that question?
I'll jump in, and then or anything that Ben wants to add to that. But we have had meetings. We've discussed collaboration potentials. Right now, the collaboration is just limited to what we're seeing right here, which is basically just opening up the tool to Ben and to the Rolling Insights team to go in there, and all the stuff that Ben displayed on the screen, that's the product of his creativity and his ingenuity, and it's really great data. And yeah, I have a follow-up for Ben on a piece of it. I would no need to put it back on the screen, but I have a follow-up for Ben when we get there. But first, let me see if Ben wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, and like you said, we've had talks. I would like to, progress to that point. I think there's a lot of cool things that we could do, and a lot of interesting things that we could do as well. So yeah, a little bit of both right now to answer the question.
Good.
Yeah. Can I kick a follow up to Ben?
Yeah.
So Ben, you probably saw this on social media, but in case you didn't, because you have Daniels scored highly, and I do too. Daniels was like 4th in QBR last year. It's one of the metrics I like, one of the EPA based metrics I like. And anyway, Daniels, he went to the NFC Championship game last year and just had an amazing season, and was like injured partially through the season too. So the season might have been better. And he took a team that was really rough and and really turned it around. He's a big part of that. Coaching was too. But anyway, Daniel's Prism Black Finite 1 of 1 was a headline making sale at Fanatics Fest in New York City. That's the big event that Michael Rubin and Fanatics put on. And Rubin was there on stage, Michael Rubin, and the owner of the Commanders was on stage. They sort of put out this generic call to the audience, who here has the best Jaden Daniels card? And Rothkard stood up and said, I actually have the best Jaden Daniels card, period, which is a matter of some debate, but there's certainly some people who would agree that it is. And they negotiated back and forth for a few seconds, and they quickly settled on a price of $500,000 that the Washington Commanders owner would pay, plus a signed jersey from Jaden Daniels, to buy Jaden Daniels' best card, or one of his best cards, on the spot. Ben, what do you think when I tell you that Jaden Daniels had a sports card sell for $500,000? Is that crazy? Do you think that's going to age well? What's your reaction?
Oh man, I would say that's pretty crazy to buy anything of that high of a price after one season of play. But I mean, Chris, you and I are similar. I love to analyze stuff. That's why this is so interesting to me, because I like to get ahead. So like when I look at that data space I created, it's like I want to figure out who could be the next Jaden Daniels, because like you said, he got drafted 2nd overall to a bad team, and then he's in the conference championship game. Like which quarterbacks on that list can take that leap this year? And I mean, a few come to mind. I think there's some teams that could outperform their expectations this year, but yeah, spending that much on a guy after one season is a little extreme for me.
Yeah. Well, his Prism Gold just sold at auction. It's a slightly lesser version of that card, sold for about $50,000 Thursday night. Jeremy, I think you and Adam were covering it. Isn't that where it ended about? I think somewhere around there.
So, yeah.
Usually there's like a 3 to 4x multiplier for up and coming new players from the gold to the black. So 10x is a lot.
It's also not like Dan says here, that stage sale, as he calls it, is not competent data. It isn't. I mean, it was also part of the excitement in the moment for the owner of the Commanders to pay that amount of money. It's to him, $500,000 is probably not a lot of money. I don't know who the guy is, but it's might not be significant for him. And it's a marketing expense as well for the team, for the event. So I don't consider that to be indicative of what the card would sell for at open auction, to be a fair market value indicator of what that card's worth. It probably sold for a pretty big premium just because of everything. And Roth made out like a very lucky person, made out like a bandit in a way. Nothing against him. I mean, hey, he was the right place at the right time with the right card. It doesn't get any better than that. He won the lottery. But here's the follow-up, if I may, which is, so Ben, I don't know if you heard about this one, but just 2 nights ago on the Fanatics Collect Premier Auction that Adam and I covered, the most that's ever been spent or paid on any female athlete's card happened. The record was set. It was a Caitlin Clark 1-of-1 autographed logo woman card from Flawless, I believe. Was it a Flawless brand?
Yep.
Flawless was the brand on it. And Ben, what would you say if I told you that? And 2 things. I'm going to tell you what it sold for. What do you think that? But second thing is comparing it to the Jaden Daniels. Which one is crazier? This Caitlin Clark card sold for $660,000. What's your response?
Oh, yeah, I would say that's even crazier to me, just because I know the WNBA is exploding in popularity, but that's not even on the level of the NFL. Like, the NFL is the most popular sport. So I don't know. I don't know how you make that. I can see both sides of the coin, because she's probably the most popular, like, female athlete right now. She might be the most popular American athlete in general, like, of anybody, to be honest. So I can see both sides of the coin, but that just seems insane to me.
And which one is more insane, the Daniels for 500 or the Clark for 660?
Probably the Caitlin Clark. Is that, like, real though? Because, like, I saw some comments in the chat about that being staged. Like, I can totally see that. Like,
which
the Jane Daniels one. Like, is this real? Like, someone really? This wasn't like like some handshakes behind closed doors type thing.
It might have been. My perception of it is that it wasn't staged. But with that said, it doesn't mean that Michael Rubin, who's on the stage, didn't say to the owner of the Commander, say, hey, buy the, take it for, especially because I like when Michael Rubin said to Mike Mahan, what's the card worth? He asked Mike Mahan what the card was worth, who's one of, a senior executive at Fanatics as well. And I think Mike Mahan might have sort of said, oh, 500 sounds reasonable, after Roth Cards might have said he wants 500 grand. I think he came out at $1 million. What he wanted, I think he just shot his shot, and ended
I think he said 2. I think
he might have said 2 million, right?
They thought they got a deal.
Maybe Commanders guy thought he got a deal. Yeah. But at the end of the day, even if it was staged or not, like, it seems like the money moved. I mean, Roth Cards, I don't know. It would be a big thing for him to be lying about receiving $500,000 into it, or I think he was a partner in the cards, so even $250,000 into his bank account. It'd be really weird if he didn't receive that money. But either way, it's still, let's assume it sold for $500,000, and the Clark certainly sold for 660. And you still think the Clark is the worst value of those 2 price points for those 2 cards?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know as much as you guys or anyone in the chat, but it just seems like you're betting on more variables than you would be with Jane Daniels. Like, we've already seen Jane Daniels take a team to it's football. Like, he could definitely be one of the best quarterbacks ever. You're betting on an entire sport to increase in popularity to the point to where you could pay that off, I guess, on the flip side there. Yeah.
It's interesting. Chris, was the Jaden Daniels card recognized by Card Ladder?
It is. And there were several layers of verification of that sale. So shortly after it happened, Roth indicated to me that he would verify the sale once he got paid. And the sale happened in mid to late June. And it was documented, obviously, by major news sources, including ESPN. And then with the price paid. But we waited to get confirmation from Roth. And then I guess it was about two and a half weeks ago now, on July 11th, Roth messaged me, said that he confirmed that he received the wire transfer, and I provided him the option to either verify by showing the wire transfer or by providing a copy of an invoice with a line item indicating that $500,000 was paid and billed and received. And he chose to provide the invoice, which he did. So once we had the verification in place that he confirmed he received the wire, he provided an invoice with a line item verification and the national reporting by reputable media outlets. We verified that sale based on that criteria, which you can read in the notes of the sale on the card. And in addition, what the notes provide is that it names actually both sellers. So it names Roth Cards and Sports Card Taxi as both sellers, and it links out to Roth's page. And that's important for credibility and transparency, simply because, this creates a public record, a public documentation that price was paid, and they're attesting that it was. To state the obvious, that can have tax implications and income implications. So it would be a dangerous game to play to publish this information. Not saying that deception doesn't happen, not saying that we can't get fooled. We can, and it does happen, but it would be a pretty dangerous game to play to assert that one took in a $500,000 piece of revenue if one didn't. It'd be tough. But I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm sure we've been duped before and we'll be duped again. But those were the mechanisms that were in place to verify that sale, and you can go see it in Card Letter right now if you want to, with the full note explaining. Good. Oh, I have a further thought too. Just sort of like this idea: is it staged? Is it not staged? Was there handshake deals in the background? These are excellent questions. Sometimes it's not just as nuanced as like they huddled in a room beforehand, they all got together, they had a script, they practiced their lines the week before. It doesn't need to be that rehearsed. It can really be what you sketched, Jeremy, or something in the nature of what you sketched, which is, hey, there was kind of a moment, everybody sort of sensed that there was some viral potential here. There was sort of the notion in the back of everybody's mind, this is really going to be a marketing expense. We'll display the card somewhere. We'll turn it into a themed event and or do something with it to sort of use it as a marketing angle, and we can justify the spend in a number of ways, and this helps prop up the Fanatics event. This helps get people excited to go to the next one. Sort of it plants the dream that you can sell your card of your player to the owner of your favorite team if you go to the next Fanatics Fest. So there's a lot of elements to this. It's not black and white. There's really a gray area here.
Appreciate that context. All right. Okay, so first I'm going to do some comments from the chat now, and the professor has an AI question for you, Ben. I'm not going to ask you to answer that right now. I'm just going to say, Professor, feel free to reach out to Ben privately to talk about the AI details. I think that would put the audience to sleep at this point. Steve Splenda says, that's just silly. Glad Roth made some money, but that seemed like the fakest staged nonsense to pump the event. So some of these comments that Chris was just basically talking about. Lucky K, do we have proof the sale actually happened for that price? I think we do. Texas Ranger says, if this is a bubble, these sales are the ones that get wrecked when it busts. Yes, they certainly are. Rebecca, trading card chick, what's going on? We will see you in Chicago. Been a long time. 90s baseball Jake, I would have taken the $500K offer quicker than he could finish that statement, of course. And Dan makes an astute comment. The sale happened. The real question is, was it planned in advance? Those guys didn't go on stage and ask for a card and not know it was in the audience. So interesting. And yeah, take it for what it's worth. Think about it. Rip and list. What a great time to be in the hobby. There we go. For sure. Texas, are we going to see it at every Skins game? Maybe. All right. Good stuff. Ben, was there anything else you wanted to mention about the quarterback data set, or are we on to more other hobby talk now?
No, like I said, thank you guys, obviously. And if you guys have any questions, like you said, Jeremy, you can reach out to me privately. If you guys play fantasy football, utilize that free draft kit there. You can check out my rankings and all that stuff on the website. and I'll answer any questions that you guys have.
Very nice. Thank you. I'm just fixing something on Chris's window there. There we go. We just add the second name there.
Nice.
Did the buyer have a drink in his hand? Ladies man says there's a video of Michael Rubin seeing that card earlier in the day. I mean, there could be all sorts of things. Hey, listen, maybe it was a staged event, but listen, if you're Michael Rubin and this is your big event of the year, this is Fanatics Fest. There's all sorts of celebrities in there. There's however many tens of thousands of people coming through, 150, whatever it might be. And there's about to be a deal for $500,000, but between a collector or a buyer seller of cards like Roth Cards, who has tens of thousands of subscribers on YouTube, between him and the owner of a professional franchise. I mean, if you're Michael Rubin, you're silly not to try to get that on camera and make a big deal of it. So listen, it might have been staged, but seriously, is that the worst thing in the world? Well, listen, it might. And I ask that hesitantly because are you pumping up the industry in a way that doesn't deserve it? Like, does that card ever sell for $500,000? Let me rephrase. Does that card sell for $500,000 if there were not crowds around it and the opportunity to put it out there for the world to see? I don't know. Terry Brown says the chat is very negative and angry tonight. PSA, Jeff Wilson, fake sales, Nationals coming up. Let's get some positivity going. Davia says we are all talking about it still. I think the marketing worked. Well said, Davius. Well said. Retro 80s reseller, stage paid marketing. Could be. All right. Pardon me. By the way, if anyone sees me at the National, I will be giving away my own special sports card. I don't know if Chris, if you caught, I think I showed this the other day on the show with Adam at the end, but it's a new Cracker Jack card that was just recently discovered. The new Cracker Jack card, Jeremy Lee Sports Cards Live.
The Calgary, Alberta find.
Yeah, the Calgary, Alberta find, exactly. If you see me at the National and you have your own card, if you're a collector who does, I did this last couple of years at the YouTube get together on the Thursday night at the National. Several collectors and content creators have just made cards of themselves to give away to their to friends, and so I did it too, and thought it was fun. So if anyone sees me, hit me up, and hopefully you have one to give me back. That would be great. Okay, a few more comments here. Dan's Vintage, this is my positive comment. I'm so looking forward to seeing many of you in person in the next few days. Yeah, I certainly share that sentiment, Dan. Thank you for sharing that. Ziggy No says, who cares if it was staged? Was Brady winning stage? Did Brady not make people happy? Very fair comment there. Okay, Chris, I have a couple of, I have one topic that we didn't get to last week. Did you want to talk about that one tonight? And by the way, Ben, you're welcome to stick around, but also if you want to not, you're welcome to stick around and join the conversation, but no pressure too. Okay, Chris, is that the one you want to do?
Yeah, I'd love to do that one. And to Terry's point, I don't know why. I don't know what the mechanism is, but whenever the market is really ripping, and it's really ripping right now, there's a lot more negativity. And there just is. I noticed this the last time around, say around 2022 time, where people just people speak up and speak out a little bit more on the things that are bothering them, and a lot of times they make good points, honestly. And from a functional point of view, it really balances things, because we can very quickly slip into this state of mind where we're drinking our own Kool-Aid, where just everything's always going up. We're all geniuses. Look how early we are. This is just getting started, and a little room balancing never hurt anybody. A little professional skepticism, I think that was a term from the other week, that never hurts either, right? I think it's completely fine to, but I also get where Terry's coming from. Terry's like, look, dude, this is my hobby, man. I want to have fun. Can we talk about things that make me happy, at least a little bit? So
fair comments.
Yeah, I get it.
Pretty much do agree. Skeppy says I should distribute my cards in Cracker Jack. And Rock Latex says, Jeremy made a 63 floating head card of himself yet? No, I haven't. I've only made the one. I've only made the one. So don't get ahead of me yet. I got to get rid of these ones first. All right. So, before we get to the topic, Chris, as if you were watching or listening earlier on the show, we talked a lot about the Cards HQ collaboration with PSA on the fairness certification. Someone did ask earlier if you could share your. Now, listen, you work for Card Ladder. Card Ladder is owned by the same company that owns PSA, is owned by collectors. So I want to ask, number one, are you willing and able to discuss that and share some thoughts, or do you want to abstain based on your position in the hobby?
Yeah, I appreciate your thoughtfulness around that. And here's what I say about that. On the one hand, if I have any criticisms to issue, I should do them privately, because these people are in some sense colleagues, and it would be most fair of me to say it to them directly rather than just kind of do it on a huge public platform that has hundreds of viewers live. So that's on the one hand. If I have something critical to say, that's the channel I should use to do that, and I would. And on the other hand, if I have something positive to say, it's self-serving. It benefits my interest as a person who's part of the collector's umbrella of companies. So I really, in either event, either I'm conflicted out, or professional courtesy requires that I take my comments through the proper channels. So if I felt very, very passionately, I would issue that as a disclaimer and then voice an opinion, but I really don't. This really isn't my lane. And given the caveats that are in place, it's not really appropriate in either sense. Either it's self-serving or it's something that I should funnel through the proper channels.
Understood and respected. Steve Splenda says, why is pushback considered negativity? The marketplace of ideas should be diverse, especially when we are discussing a financially based hobby. I couldn't agree more. Listen, we the hobby need to be, we are the only enforcers there really are in the hobby, are the voices of the hobby. So pushing back on things, I don't think pushing back is necessarily negativity. I think it can become negativity in the way the message is delivered. But if the message of pushback or skepticism or concern is delivered from a viewpoint or a perspective or a mindset of concern for the health of the hobby, concern for the people of the hobby, and in search of the truth or the actual facts of the situation, then it's fine. Like all the commentary that I made earlier about PSA becoming the arbiter of fairness in the repack world wasn't, it was, I thought my intention was to base it on, like, I don't know enough to know what they're actually doing. But if there are holes in the controls or the process for there to be, for people to be able to game that system, then it's an issue. And will we ever know? Maybe, maybe not. So I don't think pushback. Yeah, I agree with Steve Splenda is what I'm trying to get at. I don't think pushback is negativity. I think it should be conducted in search of truth and in search of clarity for the stakeholders of the situation, which are all of us. If we're here, we are stakeholding. Splenda says, so tone policing. Say what you want. No one's policing. No, I mean, I will police my chat here on the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel, but I'm not policing anyone else really. So tone policing, if you want to tone police, go ahead and tone police. That's your business, I suppose. 90s B-ball J, Chris, is the market to vibes relationship correlated, or is one causing the other? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, this is very speculative, right? So I think that this is really a barbershop question, where we're all just kind of sitting here. We can fire off a take and just, because the question itself is sort of a vibes question. I don't know how I would prove it. I don't know. In other words, I don't know what data I would grab to sort of prove that vibes are causing market trends or vice versa. But I can just kind of speak to my experience. And my experience kind of tells me that the markets feel correlated to me right now. The S&P, the crypto markets, the sports card indexes, like they all feel, and importantly, the devaluation, the debasement of the US dollar, which is really suffering again this year, especially relative to other currencies. All those things just sort of seem to be working in tandem right now. And then the thing that's sort of standing above the rest, the thing that's sort of extraordinary, is Pokemon. And I don't know. It's so far, it's not even in my periphery of my personal collecting social media experience, like to be able to opine on what's going on in Pokemon. But I wonder what you say, Jeremy. Is this just like a vibes session where just everybody's feeling great? You know, we had this 2-year winter of depressing prices, and now suddenly we're bouncing back again and we're feeling good, or something else?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not feeling so good about it because all the cards I want to buy are too expensive. Not all of them, but many are too expensive to go buy now. And I'm certainly not paying these inflated prices for the hot rookies of the year in any sport. I haven't been doing that for a decade, so that's not new for me to abstain from that activity in the hobby. But I think we went through a crazy roller coaster over the past 5 years. And we are sort of stabilizing. You know, there are crazy sales happening. Jordan cards are going nuts, among a few others, of course. Dan Marino cards apparently aren't going nuts right now. They've that essential credentials out of 8 went from 100 and whatever 10,000 down to 45 or something like that in the course of 9 months. It's an outlier. It's one card, one low print run card. But my point is that I think people are just enjoying the hobby right now. I think a lot of people are enjoying the hobby. And, you know, most cards I think are cheaper than they were at the peak during the pandemic. So, I mean, some are way up there now, of course, like I said, but I don't know. I think it's a vibe thing. I do think there's a vibe thing. I think people are just enjoying the community. They're enjoying cards. I wonder if some of it is, are we seeing, like, somebody put a story post out on Instagram today, forget who it was, my apologies. It said something like PSA, like not professional sports authenticators, public service announcement. Your cards, I think it was Patrick Ryan. He said, your cards are not worth more because another celebrity got into the hobby, or something to that effect. And he may be right. He may be wrong, though. I mean, maybe people are happier in the hobby, generally speaking, because they're seeing more and more mainstream coverage and professional athletes getting into it, and values are going up. Maybe that is giving people confidence, just like a strong economy gives people confidence. Maybe they're sensing a strong sport card economy, and so they are becoming looser and buying more cards. I don't know. I really don't know, Chris. It's always tough to answer why the hobby is where it is at any given time. You know, in the pandemic, it was because the feds were printing all this, all the money. I forget what it was called, the assistance money and that kind of thing. But was that solely responsible? Is there money coming in? I always thought a lot of this big money, these 6-7 figure deals, I thought the buyers of these were either institutional money, like people putting together investment funds, or I thought it was coming from Asia. Then you start thinking about, I don't even want to say it, but the money coming from south of the United States from illegal activities. But what I've recently heard, I don't know if it's true, I've heard it's Saudi oil money coming into sports cards. Like that, I was yesterday years old when I learned that Saudi Arabian oil barons are buying sports cards out of the US. So who knows? I don't know, Chris. I know I just said a lot there, but how do you reply?
No, I think some of the best answers ever are where somebody just says what their gut is indicating, and they don't have to have the perfect answer to solve the question on the spot. You know, just here's some thoughts. Here's my perceptions. Here's where things are going. I love to hear answers like that. You know, do you remember Michael Osaki? I think you may have interviewed him at one point.
Yeah, from PSA certificate authentication. Yeah,
Yes.
he has a podcast. He just had me as a guest like 2 months ago.
Got it. Okay, that I must be thinking of that. Okay, he during February of 2021, I remember. I'll never forget this. It was so prescient on his behalf. He saw those two Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer PSA 10 sales for $720,000 on Golden. And he made a simple Instagram story post, and it was very direct and to the point. And he said, I'm calling the top, and I'm calling this a blow-off top. These prices are so extraordinary. The run-up in value was so sudden. The hype machine and the influx of celebrities who are saying that, these are going to $1 million next. He just said all these ingredients indicate to me that this is a blow-off top. And boy, was he right. And if you look at the Card Ladder 50 index, the Card Ladder 50 index would peak about a month later and then lose half of its value in the following year. Literally lost 50% of its value in the following year. And I think about what Osaki said then, and then I think about that Caitlin Clark sale from Thursday night. And I think there's a chance that sale will sort of be a wake-up call in the same way that I think those $720,000 sales were for the market. A splash of cold water, sort of a thought to say, because they were so visible. They were just so, and the Clark sale is very visible too. I don't know. This thing could keep running for another 2 years. I have no idea. And something that interests me about it is that this time around, people aren't running up the value of the 1986 Fleer. That card hasn't really changed value much in 2 or 3 years. People aren't going to those cards that we normally see true returning hobbyist entry-level people flock to. People aren't going to those this time around. People are going to, it's other stuff that's setting these crazy prices. It's Michael Jordan inserts, as his House of Jordan in the chat has pointed out. It's Michael Jordan inserts. And it's cards that are usually a little bit further along the arc of the evolution of a collector. That those are some of the ones that are really running right now. So it almost makes me think that maybe, this is the same people who came in 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's the same people buying again. They just have a renewed confidence. They feel like maybe they figured something out or whatever. Or I don't know. That's total speculation. But I think with a hat tip to Michael Osaki, we might be looking. That might prove to have been another blow off top.
Yeah, I wonder. It's a one of one, but there are other similar one of one cards of hers. There's another logo woman, I believe, on Golden right now. I think I saw. So, yeah, it's an interesting time. Ben, any thoughts on what we're talking about?
Oh, I love listening. Very interesting. I can provide some context on the Pokemon side of things, though, Chris. I do think a lot of people got into the hobby back during COVID, and then it kind of went down, and now it's back up. And I don't know if you know, but they launched a game on your mobile phone, TCG Pocket, which is extremely popular and has over 6 million active monthly players. And that has, when the boom happened in 2020, it was a lot of people that did it when they were a kid and they were getting back into it. And that app has brought people that had never done it in their lives. Now they are, getting into it. And I mean, it's too short of a time to say how that will affect things, but I don't know, like, if those people are here to stay or if they're going to leave. But I think there's a greater chance of them staying than there was, 4 years ago, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, and you make me think about Pokemon Go from 9 years ago. That was when I was first coming back, returning to the hobby. Was when that game was blowing up, and my Card Ladder co-founder Josh Johnson. I mean, he credits Pokemon Go in part for being one of the things that got him back into cards in general, and I think he's far from the only one. So I think it's a great point there. I didn't even know about that game.
I heard Josh say that on a recent episode of the crossover, like in the last month or so. He said, and I thought that I was like kind of tweaked when I heard that. Really, Pokemon Go brought you back into the hobby, and now look at you, serious collector working in the industry.
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, let's do a couple of comments here. First of all, Colin Murray said that Peter from SGC, formerly of SGC, should go to Beckett. They need a ton of help being relevant again. Skeppy says the last time the card markets were like they are today, the dollar was rising in value. The dollar losing value may or may not have anything to do with cards. Hard to say at this point. I think it probably does have something to do with it. A rising dollar is going to make people confident, and when you're confident, you're more spendy. So I think that makes sense. Davies, I wasn't taking a low blow at Dan Marino. What happened was a Dan Marino Essential Credentials now numbered 8 of 8, an amazing card, sold on Thursday night for like $45,000. Same card sold 9 months ago for about $110,000. The exact same card, So somebody took a big loss. So my issue isn't that the card came down in value. My issue is that the card never should have sold for 110 in the first place. That was probably like a bidding war or a couple of mega bids gone bad versus the buyer and the underbidder's true feelings of what that card was maybe worth. That could have been a bit of an ego fight too between two, well-funded people. So I don't have an issue with, I don't think that's we see comments of the card went down. Okay, technically it sold for X. It sold for X minus 60%. It went down. It sold for less. But does that mean that the market value was ever really up there on a card that's out of 8 with only maybe 2 people pushing up there? Maybe not. That's a whole other discussion. I just don't have a lot of faith in that first price. Personally, cardboard and plastic, the hobby is so much bigger than grading. Took my daughter to a card show, and the ungraded market is doing great. Good to hear. Skeppy says, so some dude in Saudi has been the one outbidding me on all the cards that I want. Apparently, I saw that on like a national sort of interview or something. I don't know. I forget where I saw it. Dan's Vintage says, Caitlin Clark is a hero to an entire generation of young women. She's like the mantle of the WNBA cards. Her cards are here to stay. Yeah, I mean, tough to, right now it seems that way. It seems that way for sure right now. But I don't know about the WNBA as a whole. And, we saw them wearing those shirts, pay us what we're worth or pay us more because the men are getting paid so much more. But are their employers making as much as the employers of the NBA teams? And I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's the same owners or is this like, all I know is that if I own a company and I have 2 divisions and one division is making $100 million and the other division is making $100,000, I'm going to pay them proportionally. If you're in the lower division, or I'm not a division, but I have one company with a president, another company with a president, you're going to pay proportionally. I don't see any way around that, but I just don't know about the WNBA. Is it all based on Caitlin Clark or is there more to it? I don't know. I don't follow it. I don't watch it, but I hope it does well and these women get paid what they're worth, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really qualified to talk about. All I know is $660,000 for the Caitlin Clark card. Okay, Chris, what really drives the changes in a card's value? That was the topic that you brought last week that we didn't get to. We can go for another half hour here or so. So I want to get to that. I need to step away for about 2 minutes. So can you take 2 minutes and present the concept?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll present the topic. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
to you right now. Thank you.
All right. Here we go, baby. Hoj flying the Sports Cards Live plane. Okay. Here's the topic that I'm bringing tonight. Back in January of this year, the Wax Pack Hero website, Mike Summer, wrote an article called The 20 Most Expensive Barry Sanders Cards, 1998 versus 2025. It's a great article. And what he does is he takes a list that Beckett published in 1998 of the 20 most expensive Barry Sanders football cards at that time, and then he compares those cards to their values today. And so he puts out a disclaimer that says, I recognize that these comparisons aren't perfect. So, for example, all the 1998 prices that he references are for raw cards, and the 2025 comparison has a mix of raw and graded cards. But he tried to make sure that for 2025 that the copies, the grades were as comparable as possible. So that's sort of the preamble to the research that he did. And then here's what he ultimately found with his list. And hopefully we can get Jeremy to throw this list up on the screen when he gets back. So he starts and I'm going to present some of these Barry Sanders cards for you to think about here. So the first card he brings up, which was ranked number 1 in 1998, was the Select Certified Mirror Red of Barry Sanders from 1996. It was a $1,200 card then, and it's $17,000 today in a PSA 10. It's third today, okay? So already we have a shift. Already we have the card that was number 1 in 1998 is number 3 today, but the changes are about to get a lot more dramatic. And this is what I'm hoping that the audience can think about. This is what I hope Ben, Jeremy, and myself can think about. What is it that makes these cards change in value, in relationship to each other? How is that possible? How is it possible that the status of these cards can change so much? So here I'm going to give you the next example. The number 2 most valuable Barry Sanders card in 1998 was the 1996 XPX Force autograph, card number SPX5. It was a $1,200 card. This is Barry Sanders, early Barry Sanders autograph card from 1996, a holographic card. In 2025, it's worth $300. It's ranked number 16 on the list. So this is the first instance here, and there are more instances of a Barry Sanders card being the second most valuable. This really cool SPX autograph holographic card. It was the second most valuable in 1998. In 2025, it's fallen off the Barry Sanders map. It's a $300 card in 2025. It's ranked 16th. All right, the next example he has is the Contenders Leather Helmets Red, which is from 1997 of Barry Sanders. This was ranked 3rd back in 1998. It was a $1,000 card then. Today it's a $1,200 card. You know, it hasn't changed much value-wise in 27 years. Some other examples here as I sort of scroll through. You know, his playoff Contenders Red was number 5 in 98. It was an $800 card, still an $800 card today. I mean, that card really hasn't changed value much at all in 27 years. And then we get to some other examples, right? So in 1997, the PMG Green, which is numbered to 15 in football, that card was ranked 8th in 1998. Today in 2025, the card is 1st. And he didn't even have a sale of the green to go off of, so he went off of a sale of the PMG Red. The PMG Red sold for $54,000. Okay, so I've given you multiple examples of Barry Sanders cards that were $800 to $1,000 in 1998. They're still $800, $1,000, $1,200 today. And then there's examples like the PMG, which went from $500 in 1998 to $54,000 for the red. For a PSA 9 of the red today, the green would be a 6-figure card. I can keep going. There's other examples. There's plenty of other examples. One of the other ones that really stood out in the positive direction, similar to the PMG, was the Rubies. So the Rubies was ranked 16th in the 1998 Beckett list. The 97 Skybox Premium Rubies, which is numbered to 50, it was a $300 card. It was ranked 16th. Today, it's 2025 rank per Mike's research, number 2, a $40,000 card and a grade of PSA 8, from $300 to $40,000 for that card. And here, I'll throw in this last one just because this one is actually staggering in the other direction. The 1997 Black Diamonds Gold Barry Sanders. In 1998, it was a $300 card. Today, it's a $35 card. Okay, so we have this, like, literally, like, imagine if I'm the guy, I have $300 burning a hole in my pocket. It's the 1998 National, and I can either buy the 97 Black Diamond Gold for $300, which would later become worth $30. Or I could buy the Skybox Premium Star Rubies for $300, which would later become $40,000. That's a very impactful decision. That's the dichotomy of results there, I think, is why one of the reasons why this topic is so fascinating. So, okay, I've rambled a bit, and let me turn the microphone back around to the other side here and ask you guys, how is it possible? How in the world is it possible? How would you explain to somebody in the hobby, let alone outside the hobby, that in 1998, the Rubies Barry Sanders and the Black Diamond Barry Sanders were $300 each? Today, one of them's $40,000 and the other one's $30,000. How in the world is that possible?
Pumpy Pumperton.
Marketing, is that a part of this game?
I mean, listen, we see it a lot, right? We see a lot of attention given to certain cards by certain passionate collectors, investors. And I mean, listen, I say it half tongue in cheek, half not tongue in cheek. You know, Like, why are PMGs the bee's knees? You know, I mean, why that card? There are so many beautiful cards from the 90s that I think, and you just quoted a whole bunch of them. There are certain beautiful cards from the 90s that people just don't care as much about. And I think it's because people just don't care as much about them. But maybe if the right people started talking about them more, maybe if there was one coming up for auction and there was a reel done about it, or marketing done around a certain card. The Wharf does a great job of spotlighting on Instagram cards that haven't sold for a long time, and then comparing it to a similar card that has sold. And so he does a great job of marketing certain cards. Adam Gray does reels for several auction companies. He does a great job of telling stories behind cards. So and then there's other very influential Instagram accounts, Twitter accounts, I'm sure, that love to just show cards and talk about what's awesome about them. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Especially if you're not looking to sell that card the next day, if you're just looking to, if you love your card so much, and Instagram is a community where people talk about their cards and why they love them. I get a new card in the mail. I post out. I tell you guys why I love the card as well. Like, it's what we do. But there are some amazing 90s cards, and some Pacific cards come to mind in that era that are as nice, if not nicer, than what Upper Deck, Fleer, and Skybox put out. And they get almost no love at this point. Maybe it's because they don't have the brand equity. That's another thing there, Chris, is the equity that a brand has, the equity that a insert set within the brand has, or a parallel. These things are built up over time because influential hobbyists are shining lights on them, whether it's at a card show, in a showcase, or online, mostly online, I would have to think. These things can catch fire. The other thing is that not everybody knows about every card. So I am still, like I've said 100 times, 45 years in the hobby, and I'm still discovering cards I've never seen before that I like. Well, how do I discover them? Somebody shared it. And now I'm like, well, I might want to go buy one of those. So now I've been influenced by some of those people to go buy these cards. And now I'm in the market. That's one more person in the market. Demand has gone up. Price is going to go up with demand. So the hobby it's bigger than we think, but it's also at the same time smaller than we think. I know that's weird. I know it doesn't make sense.
No, it does. It just takes two bidders. Just takes two bidders to print a comp that can change the landscape of everything. It's along with some media that documents it. Something Ben said earlier about comparing different players that we were discussing, and he mentioned one player might have less variables that you have to speculate on than another player. And I was thinking about this idea of variables in this context too, because here we're literally controlling what is generally understood to be the biggest variable, which is the player. We are controlling the variable of the player. We are talking about a Hall of Fame running back. We are talking about a guy who some people consider to be the greatest running back. Most people consider him to be one of the greatest running backs. And I have on my screen, you mentioned Pacific. I'm looking at his Pacific Dynagon holographic colors purple. It sold for $400. It was a $400 card on that Beckett list in 1998. It's a $400 card today. It's $400 either way. And then Jeremy, you said something. You said a lot of things that resonated with me. One of them was that there's still a process of discovering new cards after 45 years, which is a great part of the hobby, by the way. Love it. Love it. It can be. God, it can be invigorating to come across a card that we haven't seen before that we just love immediately, or a card that we rediscover. Skeppy has a comment about rediscovering cards, which I think is exactly right. But I think so like Mike made this list, and this list is eye-opening in a number of ways. But one of the things I think about after this list is well, what else am I missing that's not on this list? So this is a list of, I think, maybe 20 cards, I think, ultimately got ranked here. So what? Okay, so this list is opening my eyes to cards that were ranked very highly in 1998 that have fallen off the map today. But what else? What else is out there? I wonder how much of a cure would it be? How helpful would it be if collectors, do this is an exercise that I do, and it works for me. When I'm looking at a player's catalog, I will make a checklist of the entire catalog of the category or type of cards that player has, the entire one. So like for Brock Purdy, we talked about how I collect him. I made a catalog of every Brock Purdy rookie card, and that spreadsheet is about 1,000 lines long because there's all these parallels and stuff. And then I zoomed in, but I knew, and I had the confidence that when I'm looking at that list, I know I covered all my bases. I know that I'm going to make a choice from the full menu of options. So what do you think about that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I go both. I have thoughts on both sides. In one case, it's like, I don't need to know everything there is that's out there. I don't need to see the whole menu. Think about, you go to a restaurant, Cheesecake Factory, for example, huge menu. It's like a book, you know. You go into that with two different approaches. One is, I'm going to look at everything on the menu and then decide what I want, or I'm going to look at the menu until I find what I want. That's it for me. I'm stopping and I'm ordering that. I can see the same thing with cards, right? And that's kind of, you know, I guess I'm starting to think about the collector who goes to the national or any card show and just doesn't really have a list of what they're looking for. They just want to find the cards that catch their eye. And there may be cards that would catch your eye more down the road, just like there might be a better menu option on page 18 of the menu versus page 2, but I'm not going to wait that long to get there. I'm just going to buy it. So, it really depends how you approach the hobby. Some people are going to want, completionist types are going to want to know everything there is and then prioritize what to buy first, second, third, fourth, etc. Whereas more random collectors are just going to pick what they like. So I don't know that I'm answering your question exactly, because I don't know that I heard it completely, to be honest, but did I address it properly?
Yeah. That was great. No, that's a jumping off point for a lot of different factors. So like that's why one of the things that strikes me about this particular situation is that a $400 decision, or maybe it was even $300. Let me just make sure I got that number right. A decision made in 1998 of which Barry card to buy. So let me just get you. Okay. Yeah. a $300 decision in 1998, the $300 decision to buy either the Skybox Rubies or the Black Diamond Gold. It ended up being a $40,000 difference to the collector who made that decision. You know, it's like, I think that kind of throws into perspective the stakes that can be made when we do. So to me, you know, if it's going to help me make the right choice, and maybe it doesn't help actually, because there's a whole other argument that you can make. They say, look, the more you think about this, the more you dive into the details, the more you're likely to get sucked into a card that's outside of the zeitgeist. So that's always a real risk too. But to me, if I know that the stakes of my decision could be $40,000, or you know, I am gonna do the research. I am gonna make sure that I make the most informed decision possible. And like, I like Casey's comment here, which is a really good one. He says it sounds exhausting. You know, yeah, it is. But you know what else is exhausting too? It's exhausting to go out and practice your golf stroke. You know, to practice that stroke every week, and to work on your form, and to watch videos, and to train, and to learn, and to get better. And it's exhausting. But as with many things in life, putting in the work, working really hard at it, can take something that's fun and make it really, really fun. It can actually enhance the experience. It can make it better if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to become exhausted, if you're willing to put in the extra effort. It can actually make it better. So, you know, I just think about this. But then, Jeremy, the thing I think about too is, like, if I dove into this spreadsheet, what happens if I land on the 1996 Finest Gold Refractor, you know, and I come up with all my reasons why I think this is the best one. Well, that was $250 back then, and it's $300 today, right? So I could make like, look at the winners. The winners were the Skybox Rubies and the PMGs. I mean, you know, like those cards won not because they check great boxes. In fact, they don't check great boxes. In fact, those cards have pretty high print runs. I mean, there are Barry Sanders, you know, 90s 1-of-1s that don't even sell for a fraction. Like, I was looking at that Dan Marino sale, that credential sale, and it sent me down this rabbit hole of looking at Dan Marino's 90s 1-of-1s. Dan Marino played through 1999. So 90s 1-of-1s are plain days cards for Dan Marino, and they go for $500, $1,000. You know, they go for a 40th. They go for 2.5%, you know, of what his credentials out of 8 goes for. So like, I think you can go down the spreadsheet rabbit hole, and you can actually just silo yourself off into a niche that nobody else cares about. But I don't know. I've said a lot. Let me.
Yeah. You said that PMGs and rubies became the winners at the end of the day, and that's such an interesting question to understand why those versus other cards, especially when they may have higher print runs than some cards that sell for fractions of them. And again, I think it just comes down to why. I remember growing up in the 80s and Jordache jeans were the rage. Jordache jeans, right? I mean, Levi's were what most people wore, but if you had a pair of Jordache jeans, oh my gosh, you had status. Why? I think a lot of it's just random, or a lot of it is like where marketing is going. I think the answer is marketing. In the hobby, pumping is marketing. Pumping is a form of marketing, and I'm going to call it marketing because I think it's both. I think it is as simple as that. Like, remember, I don't know if you do, in the very late 80s, early 90s, the beginning of the junk wax era, or not the beginning, but in that part, promo cards were all the rage. The action pack promo, the Brett Hull promo, the Gretzky Patrick Waugh Upper Deck promos. There were some for Upper Deck baseball. I don't remember who they were. Even when Fleer came back, there were promos. I mean, promo cards were very valuable, expensive. Now nobody cares about promo cards. Error cards were all the rage. Nobody cares about error cards anymore, except the Frank Thomas one. Should not say nobody. There are people that still love but relatively speaking, almost nobody cares about these things anymore. They've just fallen out of favor for many reasons, so. And then it comes down to a guy like you, Chris, who loves to drill in and dig in and try to explain these things. Are you ever coming up against something that you have just okay, the conclusion is unexplainable? Are you there with this, or are you not satisfied that you might still be able to find a legitimate explanation?
I think the media, the hive mind, the promotion, the marketing, I think that's huge here, right? I think that's a big explanatory factor. I think just post-Sun blowout once upon a time were influential, and people just need a place to start, and then they need something to rally around. And the Dunbar number is a number in sociology that says that a human can manage about 150 relationships successfully before they just get to a point where they can't manage any more than 150 relationships. And some people think that number's high, so whatever, but that's the number. And I think there's a Dunbar number in the hobby for cards. I think that there's so many cards that I can keep in my head, and then after that I can't really manage it. I can't keep a firm grip on it. And so I think that factors into this too. Like, there's only so many cards that we can care about from the 90s, and some are going to win and some are going to lose. And is there a fully perfect justification for why the rubies and the PMGs won, and the Dynagon and the finest gold refractor didn't win? Probably not. There's probably some level of just arbitrariness or intentional manipulation of the market. I mean, there's probably these factors that played into it too, that ultimately produced a consensus. But that's one of the things that I run up against, is that, and I think matters, is that people can only keep so many cards in their head at once. And when the menu gets too big, there's just going to be too many cards for people to keep track of.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know that I don't know that last part about, can we keep, I forget the Dunbar number. Like I brought my collection down from about spreadsheeted cards, like cards that I really care about, from about 1,600 down to 1,300 this year. And I love each and every one of the ones that I still have. I really do, but that's me, that's decades of curating to where we're at today. But overall, like the completionist, the player collector wants every card wants every card of their player that's been made. Can't afford them all anymore, but Back then they could. And maybe that's a part of it. Maybe a part of it is that you can't afford to have any and all of them anymore. So anyway, let's go to some comments because there's a lot of good stuff there I'm seeing, and I want to I want to stop having to think so hard based on this question, Chris.
Me
so
too.
We're going to do some comments. We'll start at the top. I got a whole bunch of them marked off. Card Futures first said that card sold for 9 times Caitlin Clark's salary. Is that the most ever over player salary? I mean, that's a good question. That's a fun question right there. Michael Stone said that's a great point. Cardfucius. Yes, it was. Davius. So the question is, how and why was there a shift in popularity in these cards?
Jeremy, can I jump back to that previous 2 questions? What do you think Mickey Mantle's salary was in 1952?
$50K?
$7,500 per Google AI.
$7,500. Yeah.
So what's 12.6 million times 7,500? I know that's not. We have inflation.
Yeah. But still fun. Yeah. Lucky K says, let's load up on those Jeremy Lee cards at the National. I heard he's giving them away for free to the moon. Skeppy says, time does not always mean cards increase in value. Card values get lost and out of sight. Many cards need to be rediscovered. Values are not linear and not always tied to inflation. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Skeppy, I think I see Chris nodding along. Let's go, Jordan. Welcome to the show. He then makes a very astute comment where he says, Jay Lee almost said he goes both ways. I did almost say, that's why I stopped it, because I wasn't going to let that go out. I wasn't going to say that, even though it had nothing to do with that. Steve Splenda says, Barry Sanders, number 1, Walter Payton, Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith, and Tomlinson round out the top 5 running back. That's a pretty good list right there. DS says, I'm way too simple. I pick a restaurant and prefer the chef special. I always ask the server, if I'm at a new restaurant, I always ask the server, what's the staff's favorite? You know, that's like, I always ask that question. Davius Sports says, getting your cards signed was socially rejected once upon a time. Maybe one day PMGs will pale in comparison to license pack pulled on card autos. One day. It could happen. And, you know, there's another comment someone made. Was it this one here? Skeppy says there could be a day where PMGs, credentials, rubies, etc. are not wanted like they are today. So many cards were wanted so badly in the past. And now today, nobody cares. It could change again. I hear what he's saying here, but I don't see that happening. And I could be blind. But I think that some of these cards they have risen to the top. And I think they're going to stay there. I really do. He says some cards weren't popular in the past. Sure, they weren't in the past, but these cards have been out for 30 years and they are where they are now. They have established themselves as the king of the castle, the top of the mountain. I think I could be wrong, but I think they're going to stay there. I think they've earned their place. Victor says, building your spreadsheet leads to Easter eggs, which builds knowledge and eventually wisdom. See, this is a great comment. I agree with it. If you care to gain that knowledge and that wisdom about your players' cards. Not everybody wants that. Some people just want to buy the nice cards, but building your spreadsheet leads you to discover things you didn't otherwise and maybe never would have otherwise found out about. Chris, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I want to amplify that comment. So Victor was a person who put on my radar for the first time a few years ago that the hoops offering in basketball has a real argument to be the flagship basketball product. That's typically the first product released. It's a product that has a lineage that goes back to 1989. And I believe it's the product with the most seasons under its belt of any NBA product, or if not, it's up there. It's one of the most. I have a spreadsheet somewhere that lists every NBA product ever made, and I counted them up. I think it has the most, or it's close. It's somewhere. It's like top 5-ish or something. But anyway, he made this really interesting point about hoops and sort of like if you care about like what was the first product to come out during the season, if you care about the idea of flagship, and sort of hoops is also, you know, a product that never really got bogged down with a million different parallels and stuff. And it's always an affordable entry point. And so that you can sort of hypothesize that there's a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life who can open the box. And it really has a potential to have a far reach just by its entry point. And then I was talking to a Jason Tatum collector who also happened to hear Victor say that, or sort of like something sent him down the trail of finding Victor discussing this, and then he started talking to me very recently, and he acquired Jason Tatum's rookie year hoops black 1 of 1, and it's a 1 of 1 of 1, and I'm I can assure you that I don't know what he paid, but let me not assure you. Let me reasonably estimate that he paid a mere fraction for that card of what he would have paid for, let's say, Jason Tatum's rookie year Prism Gold out of 10. And so then we sort of probed the issue a little bit, because like it is hoops, like it has a brand equity that sits at a certain level in the hierarchy, and the fact that it is so cheap sort of puts it in a certain pecking order, and the fact that they are paper cards and they're not these Optichrome shiny cards, and they're not the favorite of breakers, and you're never going to see your favorite influencer doing a big excursion on why hoops is such a great product. But he said to me that once he had taken a survey of the landscape, once he heard hoops framed in this way, and then once he understood that he actually could go get this black 1 of 1 of his favorite player, of his active favorite player, and at a very appetizing price point, just it was a huge collecting victory for him. And it was the information, it was the context, it was the historical situating, it was the research, and then it was seeing the card, and then it was understanding where it sits in price in relation to other cards. It was an incredible a victory for a collector, and victories are hard to find these days. I would say, especially for ultra modern cards.
Yeah, that's interesting. And where my mind went talking about hoops and finding a really grail type card in a low end product, I first thought of that, or was first introduced to that recently, like in as far as going back to those days in the 2020s, thinking back, was with hoops, Chris. It was when I learned that the high voltage 500 and the StarQuest, when I really started thinking about where the StarQuest golds come from, some of the lowest end products ever, in the modern hobby since the late 80s sort of thing. It's kind of neat. I think there's something special about a card that is very rare and hard to find, that comes out of a product where kids were opening packs and not respecting the cards, even in the late 80s, early 90s, once we started to have supplies and people thought they were going to put their kids through university and college on flagship product rookie cards, the Ben McDonald's, the Eric Karroses of the day, Russell Marylands, and all these guys, right? But I think those are a neat card. That right there is a style of collecting. The best cards from the worst products. Could be fun. Yeah, those were my thoughts. Now, Ben, you're still hanging out. Any thoughts on any of this stuff? You always have something to say. You always come up with something based on what you're listening. So want to get you involved a bit if you can.
Yeah, no, I'm just listening along. I think like the points Chris brought up about the Barry Sanders card and stuff, super interesting. I guess my question to answer his question is just, I know we talk about winning with cards, and obviously, the $40,000 decision, I would love to have $40,000 for something that I paid $300 for 20 years ago. But how do we quantify whether or not that was winning for those people that purchased those cards? Because maybe even though one card is significantly higher dollar now than it was then, maybe they still have that like sentimental value to the card that they purchased, and they still like that card better anyways.
Great point. Yes, that's a fantastic point of view. Yeah, we don't know. We can't know. We don't even know if that person still has that card. Maybe they sold their they sold their rubies a year later. Like it would. I'm making all types of assumptions. So yeah.
I'll see a few comments here, guys. Michael Stone calls out the Billy Ripken error card. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Still very popular. Probably more popular than the probably more people on that than the Frank Thomas no name. It's just such a widely available error card. You got to wonder if it was really an error. Anyway, SFO Sox fan says something to be said for what is popular in the future is just not known to us now. That exactly. Talked to all those folks grading with BGS 10 years ago with BGS. Yeah. If they knew what they know now. Yeah. I mean, that's on the grading side, which is applicable for sure, SFO, but that's something where, like, in terms of predicting what cards are going to be popular 10 years from now, this has been a pretty hot topic ever since people realized that the end of Panini's licenses were coming, and people want to know what are going to be the cards of the 2010s. And everyone seems to figure it's kabooms and downtowns and color blasts, or maybe just kabooms and downtowns. I don't know what's happened with color blast, but people seem to think that. Guys, that might not hold true. That especially since that seems to be the most popular answer right now. That makes me think even more so that it might not hold true. Hold your thoughts on that, Chris, for a moment. The firm calls out the Pareto distribution. Shout out to our Pareto friend. Ben Burrows says, the love for PMGs has been something I've been fascinated by in the era of the color match. People love the red and green more than ever, despite it clashing with most players. Color match, another concept in the hobby for sure. Splenda says, bro, 150 relationships. I can't keep one woman happy. That was a good one. Cardboard and Plastic says, Nat Turner made the PMGs win. And then Vinteeks says, found a PMG yesterday. Hopefully they don't drop off. LOL. Yeah, hopefully. To this comment here, I think he probably had something to do with making them win to the extent that they've been winning lately, but they were already there. You know, the whole hobby won when Nat started really publicly going after PMGs. It really started when he bought the PMG green. Well, he bought it once and he couldn't buy something. Remember that failed auction? It was on PWCC on eBay, and there was some bidding restrictions put in, and they had to redo it. And then he won it for 340 something thousand, I think. He probably had something to do with it, you know, not in any bad way, just a high profile collector buys a big card and people catch on, but they were already there. I think they kind of rose to the same degree as many cards rose, like the Jordan 86 Fleer type of thing went up a lot too back then, or between like pre-COVID and COVID. DS here says, y'all are just talking about T206s. Hoops to T206 is analogous. Just time is the delineating factor. I actually can see the parallel that's being drawn there by DS between, you know, back in 1909, 10, 11, these were free with a pack of smokes, right? So
how about this, Jeremy? To the question about Nat and his very public pursuit of the PMG green set, like how impactful was that? And then you 2019, man, just feels like it feels like eras and eras ago. But in 2019, I went to look this up really quick. He won the Michael Jordan Authentic Altered PMG green for $350,000 in 2019. And so I'm looking at all public sales from 2019. That is the highest solo basketball card sale of that entire year. And $350,000 in the hobby back then, that was a lot. So to give a comparison, in October of 2019, a Hannes Wagner, so in the grade of PSA 2, sold for $1.3 million. What's that worth today, right? So there's 2019 prices were very different. He paid very, very strong. So he had there was somebody else going against him, presumably. Who made him pay that much. I remember the moments when he went to blowout after he won that card, after the auction ended, we were all talking about it, and he posted the gif of Elaine just wiping her brow like this, just because he was just so relieved because that he won that card. So that he put his money where his collecting passion was, to say the
certainly least. Did and if it did any favors to the rest of that brand, then that's just the consequence. And it's there's nothing nefarious about that in my mind. He's a collector who likes to show off his not show off, but share his cards. And hey, if you're on Instagram, you probably do too. And that's, I wonder what the biggest online community is right now. I'm gonna guess. I have an instant guess being Facebook. I think Facebook is and there's so many. Facebook is made up of thousands of groups that all have thousands of people. But if you're thinking about the big social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, I don't know if I've mentioned, I think those are the major players right there. Which one's the biggest? I'm guessing Facebook has the most, although people on Facebook use it for other things too. Well, they do on all these other ones as well, I guess. So that's not really a distinguishing factor, but I'm going to guess Facebook has the biggest, if you aggregate all these communities and groups, as they're called there, But if you take Facebook out of it, do you agree, Chris? Do you think Facebook is the big, or is something else coming to mind for you?
Yeah, I do agree, and I think you're right. I think Facebook that's like the one where people will use their account that they've had for 5, 10, etc. years. Like they'll use I don't have a card account on Facebook. I definitely have a card account on Instagram. I definitely have a card account on YouTube, and I definitely have a card account on Twitter. So I think that is a difference. I think you're right to point that out, that Facebook is more it's the lowest barrier to entry to just jump into a card group, because it's just way more common for people to use their standard Facebook profile to jump in. And you're right, dude. There are thousands of collector groups. There are groups with hundreds of thousands of people. I remember, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, there were like Michael Jordan groups, and like the biggest ones would have a few thousand people talking about collecting Michael Jordan cards. And it even took years to get to that. I was looking at Facebook groups the other day. There's a Jordan Love group that has 5,000 people. I mean, that's just the difference in scale that we're talking about right now. I always thought that was a good
after Facebook. Let's okay, with Facebook out of the way, Instagram, Twitter /X. It's hard to lump YouTube in there because YouTube is video and those are just words, text. Well, Instagram's pictures, so it doesn't really matter which is the biggest. The ones I enjoy using the most are YouTube and Instagram. Those are the ones that I with X being a distant third for me personally.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm very heavy on Instagram too.
Steve Splenda says, I proudly don't have a Facebook, a Tic Tac, or a Snap. Snap.
Steve is on fire tonight.
Good stuff right there. Davia says Facebook is the largest monthly active user platform. Yeah, I think that's kind of obvious, right? Like it feels obvious to me now after giving it another moment of thought. Well, all right, guys, anything else, Ben or Chris, you wanted to mention or chat about, or we can wrap this up? We're past the 3-hour mark, and this has been fun. Anything else on your mind, Chris?
Been a great show. I'm so excited for the National. I have deals already in place. I'm picking up I've got a deal that I'm going to do as soon as the first day, and then I'm just going to walk around the whole show with this card in my pocket. So I'm going to be happy immediately, right? And that's always like a huge factor of the show, is like picking up something, and it's always such a fun part of the show. So I'm already pre-excited, and the week's going to fly by, man. The week is going to fly. You're going to say, where did the time go? It's going to be sad. It's going to be a week from now before you know it. So I'm just trying to make sure I enjoy it, make sure I do everything, make sure I stay healthy, wash my hands,
That's a good point.
Eat well, get sleep, etc.
Stay hydrated, all the important things. Yeah, it's going to be a great week, and it's going to come and go before we know it. I always go into a card show the first day. The end of the first day, as I'm putting my head down on the pillow, and I think to myself, okay, that was Thursday. There's still Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Next thing I know, I'm on a plane coming home. Like, where did those 3 next days go? Like but like they say, time flies when you're having fun, right, Ben?
Yeah. Exactly right.
Exactly. Hey, Greg is still here in the chat. Thank you, Greg, for sticking it out. Even if you're coming and going, I appreciate seeing you there. As well as everybody. I'm showing 242 people still with us, but that's showing over 100 on X at the moment. I shouldn't put down X if we have over 100 people over there, but thank you to everyone there, and everyone who's come through on Instagram as well. Still a couple over there. Always better experience on YouTube than Instagram. Guys, I would have to say, Steve Splenda says, not making it to the National. Everyone have safe travels, buy cool cards, and post them without a giant paragraph of prattle. Yeah, it's some good stuff. GC, visit the Card Ladder booth and get recharged. Charge your phones at the Card Ladder booth. Thank you, Yankees fans. Safe travels. Oh, yeah. I will be back tomorrow night on the channel doing the Fanatics Collect weekly auction ending watch party. We'll go live here at 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. And that'll be my last show until I'm back from the National. There will be no shows on this channel during the National next week or at all during the National. So keep that in mind. If you enjoyed this episode, even if you didn't enjoy this episode, hit that like button on your way out of here, guys. Thank you, Texas Rangers PC, Michael Stone. Sorry, I'm going to miss you, the National. Jeremy, pick up something cool. I appreciate that, Michael Stone. I plan to pick up something cool. SFO, please share your prattle. Some of us like the prattle. Yeah, some people Like, that's how we can learn, by sharing knowledge and passion about our cards. Jeff McMahon, thank you so much. You have a great week ahead. DS, great show. Have a great time at the National, gents. Thank you very much, DS. Travis Mater, much appreciated. We will see you, Travis Mater. So I don't know if you saw, Chris, but I do have these Jeremy Lee Cracker Jack cards, okay? There's a stack of them. And I did number some of them. I was like, I got all these. I'm going to have fun with it. So I got the ones out of 3. They have an inscription versus the ones out of 10 that have a different inscription versus the one out of 25 that have a different inscription versus the ones out of 100 that also have their own inscription. So I'm going to have to randomize these. I don't think I can play any favorites, guys.
May want to have PSA audit that.
I'm going to... Thank you for that, Chris. That was great. Appreciate that. Davius Sports, thank you very much. Zach Swisher says, missed the whole episode. We'll have to listen on the way to National. Guys, these shows are available on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, but they are split up into 4 or 5 separate episodes to make it more consumable. Casey, we will see you right here in 2 weeks. That is correct. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It is that time of the night where we kind of have a goofy little ending to this show, but we do it. We love it. It is fun. So everybody, hold on, Chris. Hold on. J-League Cracker Jacks to the moon, Texas Rangers PC. Blessings to you, Splenda, and everybody else who joined us. Thank you. Just thank you to everybody. What a fun night. And with that, on July the 26th, 2025, this episode of Sports Cards Live is now
over.
And with that, good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in and being a part of the Sports Cards Live community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and most of all, keep collecting. More great content to come. Sports Cards is a lifestyle.